Sup, everybody? This is KARAK with ACG, and I'm here with Johnny and Silver for the Best Gaming Podcast number 478. Probably 876 when you count the ones that we haven't posted correctly. I appreciate everybody showing up for a Friday where we're going to discuss some Xbox, some Gamefest, probably a bunch of just trailer discussion, reactions to different games. I want to know what your guys' reactions were to the event. I watched it live with people in the Discord. So did Johnny. You were with us, weren't you, Johnny? Were you with us that day? No, not that one. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Games Fest. Yeah, you guys were with us for the Games Fest. Then there was also the PC Gamer event or PC Gaming event, all that kind of stuff. So we've got a bunch to discuss. It's actually going to be a busy couple weeks because not only do we have those events that we're going to talk about now, Game Fest is sort of wrapping up. You've got different videos, previews coming out soon. I heard there's a preview for Monkey Souls coming out on the 17th. So people will probably get some heads up on that. There were some previews for Star Wars that came out. Previews for possibly for Assassin's Creed Shadows coming soon as well. So super busy. Somebody said Johnny's muted. Give me a second. Don't worry. Oh. Give us 1 second, peeps. No, you guys aren't coming through. Give me 1 second. Luckily, he didn't say anything. It was just me talking this entire time. I guess that's the big bonus. Let me see if there's something wrong here. What about now? Give me an audio check, John.
Yeah, testing.
Yep, working. So we're just going to talk about all this. Johnny had stated he wasn't here for this one. If you guys didn't hear that, he said he was here for the Game Fest one. Let's see. Probably discuss some hardware as well. Going to discuss our favorite bosses in games. So quite a packed week. I do appreciate people showing up to these. We're trying to figure out how to do the notifications correctly on YouTube, so it hasn't gone out exactly perfectly as I've been trying to figure out exactly where we're going to put the podcast from now on. Frankie Donuts, member for 5 months, says it's been a great 5 months getting into know all you guys on here in the Discord. Look forward to many, many more and many more games. Yeah, for sure. There's going to be a lot of games, man. It's going to be a very busy time for us in the Discord playing some titles. I've been jumping in there with some fans playing some games. That's been an absolute blast. What have you guys been playing before I jump into like that kind of stuff for me? Have you guys been playing anything good this week?
I've actually been playing Starfield a bit.
Didn't expect to hear that.
Creation Kit as my chill game, kind of. Enjoying it. No, not really the Creation Kit. Just kind of traveling around. Started over with a new character. Like there's still some definite stuff that annoys me, particularly how much of the game, how combat driven the game feels a lot of the time, and with the combat, some of the stuff like the enemies with multiple health bars really start to kind of annoy me and eventually but other than that, like that's just a chill game. I do quite enjoy it.
Yeah, so I guess my question would be this: we all have the games that we know that there are issues with, but we still like it. What would be the main thing to pull you into this or pull you back to this? Like, what is it that got you to wake up one day and just go, oh, I'll throw this on for the hell of it?
Well, to be honest, I kind of went back to playing Fallout 4 a bit first after watching Fallout, and then I bounced off that pretty hard, and I went, well, let's go back to Starfield for a bit, and Starfield was able to sort of maintain my interest as a chill game for a couple of days now.
Have you noticed that return into Fallout 4, right? Is that the Fallout? Yeah. Okay. Did you notice that when you returned to Fallout 4, was it, even though Fallout 4's combat's improved from 3 in New Vegas, was that what sort of bumped you? Was that?
No, I think it was mainly actually, honestly, it was the graphics that really bumped me off of Fallout 4, particularly the character models. They just look way off from how I even remember them, I guess. Where I remember them being somewhat acceptable, and now they just weren't to me anymore. Like Like, and I did notice I kept second guessing if I had the high definition texture pack installed.
Yeah, right.
Because I thought the textures looked significantly low resolution in 4K. But that was kind of really the main reason why I bounced off it as hard as I did.
That's fair. What about you, Johnny? What have you been playing? Like, what have you been
This week I tried out the demo for Once Human. We were playing that with Reg.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's still pretty rough, for sure. You know, I hope they can kind of polish it up. But I think the bones of it could make for an interesting, just light, fun co-op. Nothing too, sophisticated. But yeah. And I've been playing some League. I've been playing some Elden Ring, trying to get back into the rhythm of it. You know, it's a bit rough when you go back. You start a new game,
right?
And you're just very rusty, and you're going into those. Oh, now I have to fight. Sorry, a second giant gargoyle at the same time. Okay, gotcha. They love to throw like the double bosses at you in that game, which is one thing that annoys me. But yeah, just getting back into the speed of things and finding kind of the identity of the character I'm trying to make, because I've tried a few things there. Nothing's clicking too much in terms of spells. I always did pure melee, no spells, and now I'm trying the fire stuff, incantations.
That double gargoyle boss was the one that gave me the most trouble back.
Yeah, I find it to be very nasty, man. Yeah, exactly. But it's been fun, a great experience overall. I think I'm pretty close to the point where I can enter the DLC already. So I should be in okay shape for it.
You cleared the necessary boss for it? Or...
I'm close. I think that boss is after the two gargoyles. I think it was that blood boss, the one that like golden showers you. Well, no, like blood showers you.
Crimson showers. Sounds even worse.
Crimson.
Sounds even worse.
Yeah, that's...
I would. Yeah, you're probably really close. It shouldn't be too hard for you to pick up on it. Sorry if my camera's screwed up. I don't know what has been going on with its processing lately. But when you jumped back into, or when you jumped into Once Human with Reg, I noticed a distinct increase in bugs when you guys were together than I did for 4 hours prior the day before, where he streamed it alone. He didn't have any issues. And then you jumped in, and it was like you guys were experiencing issue after issue. And it was one of those times where I was like, damn, because I personally was impressed with everything I thought I saw of that like demo, I guess is what you'd call it, or early access, whatever he was playing. I was actually highly impressed with all of the stuff I saw. It looked like it didn't crash. It was running well. And then I was doing my own thing, but I was watching you guys occasionally on the side. And it seemed like you're running into that typical Johnny Reg co-op buggy shit that you guys always seem. You guys collect it. It's like if you're alone, you're the Jenga piece that sits alone. You're just a block on the floor, no problems. But once you guys get together, that thing starts teetering.
You try to combine it.
Man, it's
like
crazy.
The Dragon Ball Fusion thing, but the bad ones, the ones that turn out like, it's a fat guy, clumsy.
Yeah, I was just watching you guys do it, going like, "Oh, damn, man! They've got these issues everywhere." I'm gonna try something real quick. My camera doing the my camera's like at 15 FPS. So sorry to you guys who are having to watch. I don't know what's going on. It's one of those things with Zoom that it updated and now it's been shit. But yeah, dude, I watched you guys play it. I thought it looked really good. I thought it looked enjoyable. But how much is it? Did you guys have to buy it?
No, I did not.
So that is a demo.
There's a free demo right now. I can look it up. Once Human. It's a free-to-play game.
All right, so it's going to be free to play with just
July 9th.
Okay. Yeah. And I believe it's already out in Hong Kong, correct? I think that's what I saw in their Discord community.
I didn't know that. That's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, so if that is true, we're in pretty good shape, because then, you can jump in, you can sort of decide how much you want to invest in it. I've been doing, we just a bunch of Division 2. I tried out Destiny 2 and had a good time overall with the shooting, but it is so lean because that's all it is. And the one thing I found with Division 2's expansion / update recently was I found myself occasionally being sold on the fiction of helping a person on the street. Like a person would be like in trouble, and and there's no in trouble in Destiny.
That moment to moment incentive.
Yeah, it's just bad guys dropping like ticks on the underbelly of a diseased dog out of these ships. And I liked that because it was just shooting, but then after a little while you're like, oh, there's nothing else in this. So jumping into the Division 2 update was definitely spotty. We had a bunch of issues getting connected. We had issues with stuff updating the way it was supposed to. But once it's been updated, I did a bunch of the Ascent, or I can't remember what it's called. I think it's Ascent, but it's a skyscraper with 100 floors, and you all go up. And myself and a Moodski played a couple hours of that, and then I've been doing some multiplayer with the guys. And yeah, it's just been a fun. I mean, it's just awesome. And now you don't need to have that DLC or you don't need to have all the DLC to play those expansions anymore. Like you don't need to buy them. It's free. They're free in the general pack. So I thought that was cool. Oh. So newcomers, I think it's probably not only their own idea to update, but it might be a desire to fight Destiny too. I was wondering like how many MMOs are watching each other, or how many service shooters are watching each other, and they see an update over here and they're like, well, let's do this. So yeah, it was fun, man. It was a good time. And then we sat and watched the game events, the Gamefest and Xbox. We'll talk about the Xbox one first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in. I'm going to show you guys some footage on the side while we talk. So once I get this started here, make sure the audio's off. This will just be the Xbox event in the background playing while Johnny, myself, and Silver talk about some of the stuff we saw. There was a lot of games.
Were you like overall, Rotten Tomatoes thumbs up, thumbs down for the event?
For Xbox?
Yeah.
No, that was probably for Xbox, probably the best event showing that I've ever seen for Xbox. It was a wild showing.
So much stuff, man.
Yeah, and it was pretty crazy when you actually have people who are like, don't like it at all, or PlayStation Podcast going like, oh, damn, that was sort of them finally getting together and getting all this stuff down. And even less so the business, just the game, like the business side of it. I was just more impressed with some of the games we saw, and some not surprises, I guess, but just some of what we saw, some of the titles that I was hoping would be shown and were shown. There were a couple of ones that weren't. We can talk about those later. I was also depressed we didn't get Beyond Good and Evil during the.
I agree.
During the Sony one, or the.
I was really impressed
Ubisoft.
with. Sorry, cut you off there.
Go for it.
Just how many games announced for this year. I thought it was going to be a leaner year overall, and we got so many with like fixed dates even. Mm-hmm. For this year. Very cool. Yeah,
I don't know about you guys, but a lot of these events lately have been going away from the talking head, which we got a little bit at the end and a little bit at the beginning, and then the rest was games, which is good, but it can also be numbing. Hats off to them, because whatever editor did their work, they somehow made it so that it wasn't numbing. I was very worried. After 15, 20 minutes of sitting watching something, there's a lot of times where you're just like, I have no clue what game is being showed anymore. For the most part, that didn't happen to me. The first game, well, we saw the COD stuff. We'll just cover that during the Xbox one. The notes Johnny and I took, we were talking about COD, and he wrote up a nice thing for us to follow here. I said amazing movement changes, pretty excellent weapon dynamics, the stuff I expected, and graphics felt a little improved, but about the same. That's sort of what I came out with. It was like the biggest thing was the movement.
Do you feel like the graphics are so, already, developed that it's almost like diminishing returns what they can do with it at this point?
Yeah, probably close to it. Where they try to deliver a game that's going to have zombies, multiplayer and single player. And at some point, graphically, what you might be able to do in a single player game, you can't do when you have multiplayer. I mean, just the fill rate. Because
if you want to do more, you then have to compromise on other stuff even further. So maybe even shorter campaign, or
Yeah. Well, I mean, or
action.
just shorter graphics. Like if one person throws a grenade and you have a certain fill rate and you have a certain graphics expectation, and then 16 people on a map all throw a grenade, your game wants to hit 60. That is a massive ask to go from one guy throwing a grenade and being able to have the world look cool and all that, or 16. And so you pare things down and there's an even keel sort of feel to how everything works. And yeah, that's what I came out of it with, was that. But the movement was the best, dude. The movement system, it's I don't know about you, what you guys think about movement in COD, but it's always sort of been, you hear comments about it, flicky fast or Adderall or leap, you know, you hear these jokes about it. All I can say is this is either going to be the best fix ever for Call of Duty's movement or the worst disaster ever for Call of Duty, because it is a massive switch in a lot of what they're doing. And that's the thing that I took away from it was, we sit here a lot and say people don't risk things, and whatever, I agree. But that was a pretty big risk to be like, we're just going to absolutely go ham and totally change the way the characters move. Did Silver, did you get to see any of this?
Not Call of Duty, no.
Not Call of Duty. Yeah.
I was too biased to look up the trailer.
Yeah, no, dude, that's fair. I mean, Call of Duty, I will tell you this, with the movement and stuff, it's not calling new people in. Ha, pun intended. It's not calling people in. Johnny, what do you think about it?
I thought it was fresh enough that I would like to play it in Game Pass. That's, I think, the other thing. Because it is on Game Pass, it's a very big diff compared to having to purchase like a full price.
Especially at that price point.
At that price point for a short campaign, if I'm not really going to dip into the multiplayer, it's not really something I would ever do, which is why I haven't played a Call of Duty in years, really. It's that. So I think being on Game Pass, having some of those cool, fun modes that could be a nice Discord moment if we all jump into whatever zombies or, you know, whatever it may be, that to me, yeah, that seems cool. I think I would actually try it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it's weird because they're doing free on, you know, it's Game Pass, right? But it's also going to be purchased on everything. You know, you're going to have to purchase it on PlayStation and
the other platforms.
The other platforms, of course, you know, won't have the Game Pass version. And the people I've talked to who do not like Call of Duty much, or who have not returned for a while, have all stated pretty emphatically this is the first one they will play in years, because it is on Game Pass and they can jump in. And whether that turns out to be successful or not, it certainly is a boon to hear people that I know who legit don't buy. They're not the person who says, I won't buy it, but I'm getting on Game Pass, and you find out they're Game Pass fan. It's not that person. I'm talking about people who straight up, you know, they're not a Game Pass fan. They're also not a Call of Duty big fan, but because it's on there, they're like,
yeah, the combo.
The combo of it is, yeah, it's a ridiculously good deal. Also, if you're a fan of just zombies, right? Or you're a fan of just multiplayer or a fan of just single player, boy, does that become a more enticing deal to not spend $60 and be able to play that, you know, whatever
all
section
of a sudden,
you like.
the barrier to jump in, if a friend tells you, hey, let's do some zombies, it's pretty much zero if you already have Game Pass.
Yeah, it's zero or the cost of 3 cups of coffee. Well, I don't know if I'm in California, 2 cups of coffee, but yeah, man, it's pretty crazy.
Or $1 if you get the deal. That sometimes.
And then I was laughing. People were, dude. The best part right now is no matter what game it is, you could give a game away for free that cured cancer, and somebody would still bitch about the size it took on their hard drive. Right? No matter what, there's always a complaint. It's done. We now know that moving forward. And I was laughing seeing people be like, man, the download's big. And people are just losing their mind. It's like it includes 3 games. It's their front end. I get it. I do get that space is a premium. Bandwidth caps are a thing. But the developers care if it's working well. You know, if it performs well, their file formats about that, blah, blah, blah. And now we're getting to the point to where it's like, I want the developers to know the exact hard drive space I have, not the speed of the hard drive, but they need to know about the space I have, and they need to report directly to me on the space. And I'm like, dude, we are so far in the weeds.
I don't know if we've said it explicitly, but the least important thing about a game to me is how much it takes in terms of
Space
space.
wise. Yeah.
Because if it's a freaking good game, I will empty whatever I have. Like, even if I had a small,
SSD
disk,
or something.
let's be
Yeah.
honest, even the smallest SSD you can buy, you can fit 2 or 3 huge games.
Yeah.
So I think people have to get, a little bit proactive with cleaning up. If you're not playing a game for 3 weeks, you're not playing that game. Get rid of it. Unless you have a really restrictive data cap where you won't be able to download it again ever.
I just like to think about those
clean.
people that somehow bought a 4090 and an Intel Gen 14
They're running a
and 64,
500.
but they're running a 512 gigabyte hard drive on that on that PC. And I'm like, now the consoles, I get it, because the consoles, they have that screwed up space. I usually tell people to just plug a USB drive in and use it as the extra and shuttle them back and forth. But yeah, it is funny because we were having that, one of the PC guys in the channel was like, I just can't believe this, blah blah blah, and somebody was like, don't you have a 4090 and 64 gigs of RAM? Like, what exactly are you running? Are you running like 128 gigabyte brand new SSD from, or is brand new 10 years ago when they were $1,000? Like, can you just upgrade the damn thing a little bit? It's weird that hell, I feel like SSDs are given out on motherboards these days. I don't know why, but it's probably not true. But I feel like they're just given away for free. It's such I do get the complaint, obviously. For bandwidth restricted people. Definitely. People have service caps, and stuff like that. We definitely have that here in America. I don't think you guys have that where you are, right? You guys don't have service caps, do you?
No, it's very region dependent, and luckily, in the UK, it's very rare. We have something called like I forget the name, but it's like they can throttle you if there's a lot of
congestion on the network kind of thing.
Congestion.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. It's something. Yeah, there's a term for it. I don't have it, but some people do. So that is something. But
I will say another point on the size issue, though, is what you run into with a game like Flight Simulator, where installation can take 20 hours.
Really?
Yeah, is that a problem with their system? Their install system? Must be.
I'm pretty sure it's related to their installer. Yeah.
Yeah, their installer. Yeah. Well, even separate from the installation.
Like it literally takes me like 20 hours to install that game.
Because whatever they're doing, they have these weird situations where it feels like it's checking the files and then re-downloading the same stuff or something. It's almost like it's re-downloading the full package, at all times. Very odd. Got to make sure my dogs are in here. I'm hearing barking. People are saying zombies might be fun when you have more RAM than storage. LOL. David says, why is he wearing a beanie when it's 100 degrees outside? You will notice I'm inside. Thank you for being smart today on a Friday. Fighting D-Dog says, I bought $40 SSD, 500 gigabyte plugs right into my USB. Yeah. Sailor Mercury says, that sounds like my mobile plan. It has unlimited data, but once you go over 2 gigabytes, they throttle you. 70 terabytes of data, and you're immediately throttled. We do get throttled if there was a way Comcast used to be able to check if you were using uTorrent or a torrent program, and they would throttle you if they found that executable running in some way. There was some way to do it, but I think that's all gone. Moving on from Call of Duty, that's pretty much all I have to say about it, at least. Exciting to see the movement changes. We had Doom Dark Ages.
Yeah, dude, that looked good.
Man, that did. Doom Dark Ages, it looks exactly like the rumors were stating. And I love the fact that the only really thing arcane and ancient and medieval about him was a fucking cape. Everything else looked like what you would normally expect.
Same tech.
He's got that. Yeah, he's got that specialized armor. It looks like it's more adjusted for that.
He's got the hair.
He's just got the cape.
It's like
Yeah, I don't know why I just found that funny. It's like that's their one concession. I'm excited for it. I didn't see any clambering or climbing at all. I didn't see, unless I missed it, I didn't see any Doom Eternal grappling hook climbing.
No.
So, okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Silver? You're a Doom fan, right? You like Doom 2016 at least.
Sure.
And does medieval, does this or Dark Ages interest you?
Yeah, and especially how heavily it leans into the whole Gothic vibe, but for sure.
Yeah, I saw him grab it looks like maybe he grabbed a skull and put it in his
Dude,
gun, and then it chewed up the
He
skull and
shot
spit it out.
bits of the skull at people.
That is a
Amazing.
great idea, man. That was just a great idea. I like it. They have a pretty good flexibility in how they make everything work together. I'm excited for that. I'm excited also because we just didn't see a ton of clambering. And if that's gone, I didn't hate Eternal at all. I liked it. I loved it. But it doesn't need to return every game, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
something
I like the idea of that game having that as
Mhm.
you know, a centerpiece or as a
Right.
part of it, but that being its identity or its characteristic, and now we're doing something different. You know, now
Yeah.
it's the middle age setting that we're focusing on.
I hope they also kind of went away from the hub world thing
Right. Yeah. See, I don't know how that's gonna. It
and
could.
kept, and
kept
sort of
level?
go back to like the like
Yeah.
level progression.
You
from
didn't
level
like
to
the
level.
hub structure?
No, like both like the hub and the like story focus. If like
Oh.
I don't think that worked very well for Eternal. For my part. But you know, maybe they can execute it better.
They can't. Yeah, I love hubs. I didn't particularly love that one, so I agree. Yeah, if they can do a better.
But it's also I mean I think it's also just that to me it doesn't feel like Doom. I mean Doom is just the feeling of Doom to me is just that old school vibe of going like through level after level
Mhm.
until you get
Hmm.
to the boss at the end.
Feels to me a little bit like this. The discussion against hub or for or against hub. I'm a big fan of going to a place and you just work through it and you can't go back. I don't have too much of an issue with a hub that you go back to between levels, but I don't want like the ability in a Doom game to teleport back and come back or something. Like there's something that, and that's what
Yeah.
a lot of hub games have. But once I get there, I want to be like, that's my level. I need to work through it
Right.
in a particular
Yep.
way.
I will say for the hub, one thing I did appreciate about the hub was the way it implemented like how you could use cheat codes when you unlock them and stuff like that, and play around with that.
Built
like,
right into the
running-
game.
Yeah, and run through levels with that. That I did enjoy, but that was about it really.
Christopher Jetzer, $5 super chat. Can you say if Still Wakes the Deep is short? I want to play it prior to Erdtree on Friday. I cannot, but I believe if you look that up on Google, the developers have stated anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. I think anytime I see 6 to 8, I always assume 5 to 10. I just widen it because
There's a bigger. Yeah.
there's going to be sampled people who play it much faster and don't look around or anything, and then there's going to be people who soak it in, and you look at it and you're like, how did this person spend 10 hours in this game?
Yeah. It also, there's a couple things, especially with how to beat, which is where most people go to look at that info.
Yeah.
First of all, look how many people submitted. Very often you will see like 8 people.
Yeah.
You'll see literally 8 people in the world submitted their data about how long it took them to beat the game.
Yeah.
And it's an average on that. Think about how unreliable that is.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then
your sample set.
Right?
Yeah.
And then second, think that there is a selection bias towards who even goes to that website to post about their game. It's
Right.
people who probably care about how long it takes them to finish a
And
game.
who know about that
So-
website.
And who know about that website. So for me, most people who take their time with a game and are just enjoying the game typically wouldn't post there. I mean, that's my hypothesis. I don't know.
Well, not only
but-
that, but it depends
yeah.
on when you check. Because let's say a game comes out, you're a week in, and you start looking at how long to beat, and you start looking at completionist. Well, guess what? A lot of people probably haven't completionisted it yet, so they're not
Yeah.
going to the website to then install the data into the website. So you have a filter on top of a filter, minimum on top of another filter. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I
Yeah.
take the developers' comments with a grain of salt, but I sort of understand where they're coming from. And, if somebody says 20, I'll think 15 to 25. And that's usually generally safe. It's not always safe. But it just depends too on the type of game. And completionist is so different than, and I'm not talking about completionist on achievements. That doesn't mean anything. I'm talking about completionist in the game where they have some crazy crap in a game to get a completionist achievement or some award in the game or to find all the secrets. And I don't know if you guys saw, but Cyberpunk and Baldur's Gate both have been stating multiple times that there's tons of secrets people haven't found yet. And I'm just like, that's why whenever I hear completionist, I'm like, oh, let's stop for just 1 second before we identify completionist as meaning anything at all, like remotely useful as a conversation before we itemize it. Christopher also said ACG, not sure if you addressed this in the past, but I was wondering about your thoughts on the new Dragon Age. Seems very contentious right now. I don't know about that, but we are going to cover it in this line of discussion for sure. I do also want to say shout out to Cosmic Historian. I don't know if you guys saw that he passed away. His wife posted.
Yeah, Comic Historian.
Comic Historian, sorry. He's somebody who actually helped me get into comics in the last 10 years when I started. I got attracted to New 52's art, but I was having a difficult time figuring out different stuff and started listening. And we used to joke in our Discord that there's low effort shit on YouTube, and then there's unbelievable high effort shit, and then there's stuff you don't notice that might be high effort. YouTube editing, all that kind of stuff, it's not low effort, but the identity between a low effort and a high effort, especially when high effort might look low effort on purpose, is sort of difficult to see. That guy's YouTube videos, man, we were joking. I mean, he was doing voices and he was like, he's doing and all this stuff. And he is one of only 4 non-gaming YouTube channels that I was subscribed to, and just did a video, in fact, a couple days ago about sort of getting his fire back for creating. I'm pretty sure we talked about it in here, actually, prior to this happening, but it sucks. It was an accident. Sounds like a car crash. And yeah, it just absolutely sucks. If you guys get a chance, maybe go check out his stuff because phenomenal videos, just phenomenal. Eldritch Eyes says, I'm the same as ACG. The hub world doesn't bother me as long as it's it has downtime between missions. Abbreviated Review says, I think Steam needs to implement a how long to beat or at least how long played feature on games. Fighting Dog says Expedition 33. Yeah, we'll talk about that game for sure. Robert, $20 super chat. What's up, Robert? Just want to say shout out to support to ACG and the crew. Also, should I get into Life is Strange? The new one looks good, even though I know nothing about the games. As always, much love, and we'll continue to support the channel. Thank you. Those do help big time. And I would say Life is Strange, you can definitely jump in. Super useful.
Sure.
One in particular is great. Captain Fantastic, I think, which is a free Captain Amazing. Awesome. Captain is awesome. It's free. Awesome. And then Life is Strange Before the Storm is okay to goodish. And then Life is Strange 2, I think, is the one with the 2 brothers.
Yeah, we don't talk about 2.
I had a really difficult time, but somebody out there may like it more than me. I think they're awesome. Also, Remember Me, which is a Life is Strange sort of side joint, a title like it, is free today on Steam. So if you get a chance.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then True Colors, of course, the Life is Strange.
Yeah, True Colors is very good.
I don't know what we call Life is Strange True Colors. It's just it's in the same
3
world.
or 4. I don't know.
Yeah, I was confused about that even when it popped up. So next game, let's get through these. State of Decay 3. I mean, little tiny bit of gameplay with the HUD missing, but barely there. Switched to Unreal. I didn't see much. I don't know if you guys did. It looks like
see much.
No.
State of Decay, right?
I thought they're building on the foundation of the prior one, which I loved. I think it was pretty unique. I like the permadeath thing. You might think, oh, is it roguelite permadeath? Not really, right?
No,
it's
not
not
really.
like that. It's a very different vibe, and I thought it was pretty unique in how it made you.
Johnny.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just came up with a genre. What if you called it Friend Light? Because your friends can die, and you put all your friends together, but everybody in your party can die. Just call it Friend Light. Maybe that doesn't make any sense because they're not friends, right? party light. No,
Yeah,
I don't know.
that-
I don't know what it is because it's not roguelike. It's not roguelite.
Yeah. No.
It's survival light. No.
Yeah, the way the permadeath works, it very naturally forces you to be more conservative with your play.
Yeah.
And it really makes you think, should we go for this run? Can we? Because I remember playing with you, dude, and Takedown or a couple other people, and you were all coked up on coffee. Like your bar was, you were
high.
a zombie yourself. And you were like, let's do this run. We got this.
I know
it
this
was
story.
a disaster.
It was a disaster.
Yeah, but it was, it's good fun.
In that game, the risk versus reward adrenaline high is so fucking high.
Absolute, dude. And then you find something cool, a new car, or it is. It's good, man. I'm excited.
It would feel like a hiker who had unlimited energy. So every mountain peak you saw, or cool flower, or lake caused you to walk to it, which then caused you to go farther, and then there's also the dopamine of opening a shelf and finding a single coffee cup and thinking it's the greatest thing in the world. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
But man, that game has a good trist. I didn't see anything though. I mean, it's just a trailer.
Nothing. It was very lean, but I'm excited they're doing it. We didn't get a date for this one, sadly. I wish we did.
Yeah.
But alas, again, I'm happy it's happening.
Yeah, same. And Silver, I mean, I don't even know if you saw this trailer. There's nothing to see, but I assume you're just interested in State of Decay in the future.
Because I enjoyed State of Decay as well, although I did find 2 to be very, very buggy on my end.
Yeah, it got better, but for sure it was.
And Silver, number 1 was less buggy somehow, but ran at like 13 FPS. And then this one, it ran better. It still was janky, but then had the additional bugs, especially pre like 10 patches. And that's what my hope is that 3 will finally be like.
Hopefully 3 will also allow you a little more freedom in like planning out your settlements.
I agree. Yeah, because they were preconceived they've always been the preconceived
basically
spot.
prefabricated, kind of,
Yeah, I would agree with that. Next up, though, we got Dragon Age Veilguard. So I saw the complaints about the look. I had seen some snapshots, some data that showed that it wasn't going to look as characterized as the trailer, so we're going to mix these two because they also showed the event later that showed gameplay, which was certainly nowhere near as cartoony weird as the initial trailer was. So we got to see, I think it was 24 minutes of combat. It looks very close to Dragon Age Inquisition in a lot of ways, man. The choices, the way you talk to people, combat looked generally somewhat the same or recognizable. I don't know what you guys thought of this one. I'll let you guys go first. Like, what was your, like, Johnny, what was your initial reaction from seeing? You can merge the two events together too if you watched the trailer later.
Yeah.
The other trailer.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly which one I saw when. I remember both of them though. I think it's cool. I like the idea of like a character-driven thing where you have these fleshed out characters. I think that could be interesting. Nothing I saw particularly tickled me from like a gameplay standpoint, but as a whole, it could be. It could be really enjoyable. But yeah, I would say a bit lukewarm on it.
Yeah. So I don't know about you guys, but weirdly enough, I'm in the stance that because I played Origins recently, couldn't play it all the way through because it's old and it feels old. Like it feels rough. It's like Fallout for Silver, and I went back and tried to play that. I have no issues with the way it's looking or what they're doing. They're changing the way it is. I think Origins is still going to be a fan favorite because of the starting. The Origins 2 was not. I didn't like 2. I know a lot of people like 2, but I wasn't a fan. And Dragon Age Inquisition overstayed its welcome, at least with the Hinterlands and a couple other places. But I really, so far, don't have any real issues with this one, other than I just sort of need to see more of it. Like, I need to see what they're doing with character classes. Are you going to get stuck in a throne room again where you're sitting there looking at a board game table where they move little icons around and say it's going to be 2 days for this and 3 days for that, and you're timing shit, and some you'll go and do, and others you just wait and wait and wait. They did say base building is back, or your major base will be there, which I'm excited for because I do like some base building in my RPG.
Yeah.
Did you see any of this, Silver? Did you see any?
I did. Yeah, I saw both the announcement trailer and the prologue run through gameplay demo.
Give me those thoughts.
Well, I mean, I understand part of the backlash because it's definitely a significant deviation in the art department. I mean, we went from like the hardcore, edgy, like Origins that was all about like bathing you in showering
in human blood. Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah.
To this, we also went from, I mean, kind of. That depends on whether you played Origins on console or PC. Because on console, it played more like an action game.
Yeah,
but I mean, the fact that you can like direct fire, you actually aim and shoot your bow and stuff like that. From what I was able to tell, certainly a significant deviation. So it plays more like an action game, like say, Dragon's Dogma or stuff like that. Than what I traditionally would expect of Dragon Age.
Yeah.
I'm still withholding judgment. Like I think it looked fun enough as an action game. It looked interesting enough. Like the art style, again, significant deviation. You have a lot of character redesigns from like the demons. Like the Pride demon looks substantially different.
Definitely.
That isn't new though. Like there was also a huge design difference between Origins and Dragon Age 2.
Yep.
Where like Flambeth had a complete overhaul as a character art design. The Kunari race, complete overhaul as art design. So we've seen that before. And though some people are gonna like that, some people are not gonna like that at all. I'm kind of reserving judgment still on that, and how it's gonna work. But I'm very intrigued by the idea of it taking place in Tevinter. And again, because to me, that was the Veil. And the whole concept of like demons and abominations, corrupting mages and stuff, that was always one of the most interesting aspects of Dragon Age lore. And so the opportunity to sort of really delve more deeply into that is something I find very appealing. So that definitely intrigues me. So I am interested in the game still. It hasn't killed my I mean, it hasn't killed my excitement, but then I also didn't have a significant excitement. I'm just I'm looking forward to it and to seeing what they can deliver with it. Yeah.
Do you know what it feels like to me, Silver? Straight up, it feels like whenever I saw people talking about how they love the edgy Prince of Persia with the grunge hard rock music and the one Prince of Persia, Warrior Within, and I was sort of a little bit more hesitant to like it that way because I liked a little bit more gossamer fantasy of the others.
Yeah, I prefer Sands of Time as well.
Sands of Time, right. And then now we've jumped to the 2D ones, which are, even between themselves, look pretty different. Even the two most recent ones we've seen the trailer for, and we saw the one released in early access. And overall, I feel the same way about this, where I just need to see it. I don't necessarily love the demon's looks, the underlying energy skeleton. They're going high fantasy, like super high fantasy, which I normally love because you always hear me say, I want more magic in the world. I don't want less. I don't want one magic user as powerful like Lord of the Rings. I want fucking the Lord of the Rings movies we saw in that time frame.
They're more ethereal than they are like physical monsters or whatever.
Yeah. But at the same time, there were some things I didn't like, and this is an action game trope that, dude, and it happened with Dragon Age Inquisition, so I certainly can't say it didn't happen with that. And I'm sure, absolutely sure, because of how canned animations worked, it happened in Origins and 2. But in particular, the dodge was always the Jim Cotta flip to get out of the way. And after the 40th Gymkata flip, it becomes nothing. It becomes wasted space. It becomes an extra animation that you're tired of looking at because it's no longer special. It's de facto the normal thing. And that was happening all the time in that footage, where that character, every time they leaped, they did a backflip side twist. And you're like, all right, I get it. So I hope there's more animations, maybe some specific animations for a short distance, a medium distance, a long distance move. I would love that. Magic, we didn't get to see much from the players. We saw a little bit from the side characters. I did see this one.
Yeah, that was also a big one, right? The fact that you only really control your main character.
That's what it looks like to me, right?
The party members.
No switching out.
It looked very Mass Effect-y in that way.
Mass Effect.
Yeah. And the developers stated they were definitely going for... By the way, I'm fine with that if it works out. And you have good controls over them. I'm fine.
Also, I think I read in an interview that they're going for a more linear progression rather than
open world.
Like open world or giving you more freedom in that sense.
I think it'll be like almost like, was it 2 that had 1 and 2 of Mass Effect were a little bit more like small sections of a planet? You go to the planet, there's like the slums and maybe one section connected to the slums. It feels like that's what it's going to be.
All 3 of them.
Was 3? I thought 3 was more, maybe it was just bigger levels because they were celebrating having more power. But yeah, I'll be fine with that. I don't want open world. I don't want a hinterland event. I don't want a hinterland.
I agree with you, and I like the setting. You know, in the longer gameplay reveal they did, it was like 20 minutes. It's pretty cool. It's this big castle.
Agreed.
Like, and you know, I'm not as knowledgeable as you guys about the world there, but as someone who isn't, I thought that looked cool to explore.
Tonal shifts. This is too early for you, Johnny, probably, but tonal shifts I'm pretty accustomed to now. I mean, look at Neverwinter Nights 1 and 2. I felt there was a huge tonal shift in Neverwinter Nights 1 and 2, and I really liked them. But the shift to me was like dramatic, where I was all, oh, damn, they've really adjusted just the look of people and everything. And I think I've become accustomed to it now, where I'm not saying I would, if Dragon's Dogma went to cartoony, maybe I'd like it, but I would certainly be with any fan who said, whoa, that was sort of its look. Right. But I'm going to say that with Dragon Age, I never felt that its art aesthetic was necessarily so unique that the change bothers me as much. If it was very unique, like Sims or Borderlands going from cel-shaded to realism, that would be a big tonal shift, and it would certainly, I would have more worry. With this, I'm like, it is what it
is. I just find it amusing because it was such a huge marketing point of Origins, that edginess. Like, oh, we're going. Like,
oh, it was.
Yeah.
Well, like, I mean, and it was 2 where
we're not taking any prisoners. And
you do cutscenes in 2 where you're covered in blood.
A fantasy game unlike any you've ever played before, and all that stuff.
Maybe we played so many of them before they, it doesn't. They felt that didn't resonate. I don't quite know. I don't know the internals of how they decided that. I'm sure they'll talk about it. What about you, Johnny? Any other stuff for Dragon Age?
No, I'm open to it. I do like the Mass Effect style control, as long as your allies are doing stuff while you're not giving them commands. As long as they're not just idle sitting around. I think that could feel pretty cool.
Can I just also point out, I think on trailers you really shouldn't show a ranged aim requirement.
I agree.
That was pretty rough. That person was missing a lot, and that's not on them. I have no clue how their systems might be janky as shit. But the guy would leap, and he would aim over here and then slide the cursor over, and I'd be like,
it didn't feel.
It didn't feel fun. Slick or
like
fun
that
as fun as it
that
could be.
That gameplay. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that bow and arrow, that guy was behind everybody so many times. I was like, dude, seriously, help me out here. Just get closer to him. Next up, Frankie Donuts, $20 super chat, tips for the fellas. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Like I said, it helps. We don't do sponsors or any kind of that stuff. So at some point I'm gonna have to, but I'm looking for some, like, I don't know, crotchless chaps. I guess all chaps are crotchless. Matter of fact, you can't remove much from chaps before they're nothing. So I can't do that.
I mean, chaps with the crotch there
would be sort of anti. Pants. Right? Yeah, they're
pants.
Levi's. Yeah, dude wipes. Oregon Fresh says, yeah, maybe I'll do dude wipes. That's what dude wipes. That's just so. Anyway, I don't know. We're in a weird world now. Next up, Shattered Space. So we'll talk about this real quick. Get the first part out of the way. Shattered Space was shown, and then they said also available today, the Creation Kit, which has already exploded mods, which is nuts. We have people in the Discord right now running like 100 console mods. That is also awesome. But I saw with this one, looks to be companion based on, and what's her name? Andrea or whatever. It looks to be sort of about that, which is what we thought. Religious fervor, lots of small additions and QA changes or quality of life changes across this, plus the game expansion. And then it looks like a lot of alien kind of stuff or something that was very close to the TV show The Expanse to me. There was a lot that looked like The Expanse to me. Inside of the space station, there were things growing and like the ethereal look that we saw in season 2 and 3 of The Expanse. I'm all for it. Like, I just want to see what we're going to get. They showed a bigger space station, and I've heard a rumor that there is for sure space station building coming up. That would be cool to be able to build your own. But what did you guys think of this one? Like, was there any, like, Johnny, was there anything about Shattered Space that grabbed you? Didn't grab you?
I think the mod stuff is pretty cool. I got excited about the new companion. A lot of people were talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's confirmed or if it's more of a...
I don't know. People in chat, is that confirmed about a new companion? Go ahead.
Yeah, that would be interesting, I think, especially for people who like to do more questionable stuff in the game, like morally speaking. I thought the companions that are there are a little bit judgy or limiting. Mm-hmm. It feels like if you want to get along with them, you pretty much have to, align.
You have to align with their thought process. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Silver?
I didn't actually watch it because I will likely be playing it, I think, probably when it's out.
When it comes out, right. Makes total sense.
So I don't really want to spoil myself, but like the whole house, I forget what they're called now.
The serpent
or whatever.
Yeah, the serpent group.
Or whatever they're called. I don't remember, I'm sorry. But yeah, the serpent worshippers does intrigue me. Or is it Veru? No.
Yeah, House Varun. Varun.
Varun, yeah.
Yeah.
It does intrigue me. Because like they don't feature all that heavily in the main game or the main campaign, but they're just kind of there as like this intriguing mystery. So getting the chance to delve into that is appealing.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. What I thought was awesome in this, so I'll agree with Johnny. It's like traveling around with your parents who are constantly judging you. Now, I liked that because I love to piss them off. So to me, I do agree. I do feel it fit the story, though, a little bit. We can argue that because I think you guys are right. I'm just saying it fit my story, that they were a little bit on the goody two-shoes side. But obviously, on a game like this, you want freedom. And, of course, with the ending being the way it is, it makes even more sense that you would have some freedom. So I'm all for that. I'm all for a character that maybe you can travel with who is a little less hoity-toity. I do travel with companions that don't bitch, though. I think the one thing I have with Starfield that many other people don't is I don't use the main companions very much. I use the side ones I've found. And a couple of the side ones don't bitch when you do stuff. Or if they do, it is at a much lower rate than Sarah, who's like, looks 40 and acts 40.
Constellation members.
Yeah, than the Constellation members. So there's two things I think that are awesome about how Starfield is set up that harmed it day one. And that's, you could see all those stars. You sort of knew what you were traveling to. The routes were what you had to figure out, but you sort of knew. You were looking, you could say, these stars are what I can go to. New additions and changes that they can do, just like No Man's Sky, they could, if they wanted, and we know this is possible because mods prior to the Creation Kit did this, they can change the points of interest, the POIs. I would love, and this is something Silver's mentioned, POI repetitiveness. It's like, well, could you, in fact, have a situation where possibly a battle is beginning or a sort of an invasion of good space by a certain group, and their POIs start appearing as forward bases on some planets in some locations. I don't think that is I don't think that's even close out of the realm of a future expansion or something. We just have to see how it goes. But what I saw looked fun, you know. Go ahead.
Yeah. I also just would like them, because what really hurt the main Starfield story for me was really Constellation, because it didn't
as a whole.
Yeah, and like, and I think maybe I mentioned this on another podcast, but like really, like you go there and immediately you're struck by, well, what have you guys been doing? Because you're ostensibly explorers, but even like the planet where the UNC or the United Planets Coalition or whatever, where their capital is, hasn't been surveyed. Like, there's no survey data on it. I have to go collect the survey data and then sell it. And I have to go collect the survey data on Mars, on Earth, on like all these planets that ostensibly should already have been like mined and surveyed and whatever. We should have a pretty good idea of what resources or whatnot they have. But no, like it really hurts the believability and credibility of the world to me, and of the supposed like elite explorers organization, right?
Yeah, it makes me wonder how you would.
It's all
they
down
wanted
to
you
me.
to. It is, but they wanted you to go there to show you those planets.
Yeah.
So I'm also like, I'm in total agreement.
I understand why it isn't there for like gameplay purposes, but it hurts the illusion of the narrative and the believability of the game world, and it pulls me out of my enjoyment of the game for that reason.
I wonder how they could have done it. So let's say, just take Mars, for instance. Mars is obviously going to be the most explored planet at first by us, because it's just, we consider it a sister planet. I do wish they had a story. So Mars isn't really a good example because there's a base there, but we'll just go with it anyway. It would be so cool if there was a way of writing into the narrative, hey, these bases disappeared at one time. So then you would,
there are gaps or whatever, or blind spots that we haven't found,
instead of the typical POI that you see. And it is, I don't know their system, but it is weird that, for example, Mars, well, and some open up. I don't want to say too much because I don't know how much you guys have played or what you've seen, but you do grab items in the game world that then unlock locations on Earth that you wouldn't really be able to find without these specific points being opened up, or they'd be much more difficult to find. It would have been nicer to have the ones on Earth and stuff be just story based. And then mineral deposits are fine. But yeah, when you see the POIs there, that kind of stuff is sort of weird. That is why I'm excited for a new place to see what we're going to see.
Because, I mean, unexplored space, and then there's like 3 mining outposts.
Yeah.
It's
so
not very unexplored. Yeah.
It's pretty exciting to see what they're going to do here. I want to see how they add new planets, or if we get a small system, what the system would be, how do we get there, that kind of stuff. So moving on from Shattered Space. Oh, I do have to say, the mod tools, I've seen people using them, seem like they're working fairly well. And I do know that some creators have had them for a while. So we should be getting some larger stuff soon, which will be nice. Speaking of larger stuff soon, Fallout 76, man. That expansion's out, right? That new expansion. First time, I believe, that they've extended the world of Fallout 76 ever. Somebody had told me that yesterday. I didn't know if that was true, but they had said yesterday in Discord chat, so they could be wrong. We were just bullshitting. But they were saying this might be the first time there was like an expansion, like a true here's more kind of thing for Fallout 76. And that's awesome. Like that's great. I tried to return. And whatever people like about that game, and boy, do they like it, man. Dude, it's crazy. Whatever they see, I cannot find. And I looked a long time.
So this expansion or content,
pack or whatever.
Patch seems to be called Skyline Valley, if I'm reading this correctly. So June 12th, it was released, and it appears to be like a new region.
New
in
region.
the Appalachian region to explore.
Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, uncover the true location of Vault 63 and figure out the truth behind the Lost.
I
There
love
you go.
the new vaults. They're smart to always have a vault mystery.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Yep,
dude,
they're
I
very
don't know
good
about
with
you
that.
guys, but the vault mysteries are the best part of Fallout.
I
what did
agree,
this
and it builds
Yeah.
directly into the excitement about the show, which
Yeah,
people
you can
have
for sure.
as well.
Yeah, if you want to do an overlap of that. But hey, if you like Fallout 76 and you're not alone because it's booming, all the power to you. I have nothing to say. I have no clue why, but I cannot even begin to get enjoyment from it. And I tried here recently about 2-3 weeks ago, prior to this, but 2 or 3 weeks ago, and tried. Next up, Expedition 33, probably the surprise of the show for me. I was not expecting this game. Crazy visuals, crazy turn-based combat, right? And it looks like it reminded me of Lost Odyssey. And that's only going to ring true for the couple people in our chat, and Silver, who I know's played it. Right? You played Lost Odyssey for the 360. I believe it was you.
They did, but that was it so long ago
Yeah.
that I barely remember it beyond the Arctic.
Yeah, 30 Expedition 33 was surprise of the show, man. It was just not what I had no clue that was coming. It just looks gnarly. It looks enjoyable. It looks a little messy. You know, it looks a little Final Fantasy Rebirth when it's at its busiest. But what do you think, Johnny?
It's funny you say that. I was gonna compare it to that. Imagine Rebirth, but you have numbers on screen for damage and things like perfect hit or you know dodge, you know, this type of stuff. But they do it in a very stylish way.
Yep.
I haven't seen quite something like this. You know, it kind of reminds me of Persona a little bit with a very stylish, you know, menu elements that they're not menus, but these sort of pop-ups that happen in combat, UI, and the stylish aspect, but done in a real-time kind of fast-paced action game. So I'm very interested for this. I think this is a very fun action-based game. Looks like.
Yeah, it looked absolutely crazy to me when I saw it, but it did remind me distinctly of Lost Odyssey, and I'm seeing people say Lost Odyssey plus Legend of Dragoon, and I would agree with that. I don't remember Legend of Dragoon as much, but for Lost Odyssey, the moment I saw this one, I for just a brief second was like, oh my god, is this Lost Odyssey 2? Because it was the Xbox show. So I was like, holy shit. And it just came out of nowhere, man. Like, I don't think I even heard a rumor that group was working on anything. It was just like, boom, here's a show on the Xbox show. And it's always awesome to be surprised. And that is definitely, my surprise of the show. Just not expected it. It looked cool. It looked busy, though. You know, regardless.
It looked busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a game where you need to be almost, you know, it's not a sit-back game. Because like you said, if they have perfect attacks, that means even though it's turn-based, you're still going to need to sit there, you know, and do a timing perfectly or something like that.
Yep.
Anything to add for that, Johnny?
I thought
Go ahead.
The areas looked really good. You know, the lighting in some of the locations. I don't know. It was really well done. Like some really cool fantasy locations. And like some underwater stuff that looked.
I'm going to reverse our little video here and try to get us back to Midnight, whatever this game is. Midnight.
Expedition 33?
No, South of Midnight.
The next one?
Mm-hmm.
South of Midnight.
So Expedition 33 is up on the video. I'll try to rewind it. We were actually in time for a little while. Now we're out of time. So I figure I'll try to get it close. So yeah, I'm looking real quick. I'm looking at Expedition 33.
Yeah,
man, some of the designs on some of these creatures and stuff, just like, I don't even know what it looked. Yeah, it does look like Lost Odyssey. Yeah. It does. There's like metallic elements to stuff, and then there's Final Fantasy elements. It's nuts. So next up, South of Midnight. Go, Johnny. South of Midnight. Go. Give me.
I don't know. I'm very torn on this one. It had a cool artistic look to it. You know, I didn't like the framey look of everything.
Yeah.
And I get that it is part of the stylistic presentation, almost like a, what would you say?
Well, it's supposed to be stop motion. It's supposed to look like stop motion. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
It made me a little dizzy just looking at it.
Right.
So I don't know if, playing it would be enjoyable. I liked some of the fantasy with the, the giant frog. Some of the stuff
the alligator,
very
the
cool.
frog. Yeah.
Yeah. It was weird. One thing that I noted down is that the language of the protagonist was kind of like contemporary teenager almost.
Mm-hmm.
What was that game that got criticized a lot?
Forspoken.
Atlas? No, Forspoken. Thank you. Yeah, like that type of contemporary teenager language a lot. And then that in opposition to the world, which is more like fantasy, you would expect maybe a bit of more
Arcane
highbrow
language.
English, perhaps, or arcane language. So maybe that's on purpose, and that's the contrast they're going for. I thought it seemed a bit out of place. But yeah, artistic shit, though. I noted that down. It did look...
Yeah, they
cool.
artisan the shit out of that game, for better or worse. Did you see this one, Silver?
Not much.
Not
I
much.
think I've seen pieces.
So the spider suit in Spider-Man 1 or 2, the anime suit, that thing made me a little sick, and that was one little character. It makes it because it's so not the frame rate of everything else, and we're so accustomed to seeing frame rate drop widescreen, not one character drop. And so this was, and so that was surprising that it made me like feel a little weird. And then this one during the cutscenes, it looks too fast to be stop motion and looks too slow to be fluid. And I can guarantee you, by the way, this is 100,000%. You don't need internal developer knowledge for this. When you have that kind of feedback that people like the look of the game, but the cutscenes are drawing attention, you can bet your sweet ass they are currently discussing that. 100%. That was for sure being discussed. Either we need to hammer it better, we need to identify why, there has to be a way. That's something a developer will definitely, they're watching, they see, and they're definitely looking at it. But right now, man, when they go cutscene to fluid, it actually takes me a second to get accustomed to the fluidity, which is the opposite of what we're accustomed to, which is you get accustomed to low FPS if you're playing a game and it's a busy area.
Right.
This is the opposite, where you come into the fluidity and I'm like, this looks odd. Oh, that's because this is like 60 FPS and the other is 13 stuttery, weird, janky animations on everything. But I got to tell you, man, that the fantasy world's awesome. Those creatures are insane. The look of everything when she's running around is nailed. But man, they got to fix that. They got to figure out what to do. Like, make it, how stop motion, you knew it was stop motion. There's something about this that, because a stop motion takes a frame and then you move and a frame and a move. It doesn't look like that's what's happening here, which is why movies, it works. Even now, you could do some stop motion. We'd all know what it was. We'd go, because of how they do stop motion. Whatever is going on is not the same thing in those cutscenes. And they need to figure out a filter to make it.
Hopefully that's a lot easier to fix than something in the game itself.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I love the look of it though. I thought it was insane. Just looked really, really good graphically. I like the idea of a blues / Creole / it looks like it's New Orleans kind of world fantasy. The alligators leaping up here. That all looked great. But man, when the cutscenes look that good, but then have that type of performance, it makes you just go, like I wrote in my notes, fantastically fucked cutscenes. That's how much I noticed. Next up was WoW, the World Within, or the War Within. I thought this was going to be a console announcement just because it was they made a big deal of it. So as they kept showing it, I was like, wait, are they going to be like full console support? But it wasn't. Anybody here big WoW fans? None of us, right? None of us go back and play WoW, do we?
No, I did see some characters that I knew from Warcraft 3.
Oh, fair enough.
I think Arthas was in there.
Okay.
Like some of the kind of I don't know if they use those characters already in WoW. I would imagine they probably do.
They did.
But I did see that, and that was cool. But there's always that disconnect with the cinematics and the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just dreading the moment I actually see the gameplay after the cinematic, because I know that whatever level of excitement I have after the cinematic, it will go that much lower because of the contrast. It's almost like when you have a dopamine high, it's going to go low after. So
yeah, they're good at their cinematics, man. Like,
dude,
Yeah.
is there anybody better? I don't think so. I think their cinematics are like animation quality, just absolutely insane looking. But I would agree, it's WoW. So you see all those animations and this amazing looking stuff, and then they go back and they're like "Nyah, nyah," with their hands, and you're all, oh damn, it's such a difference. They did it with Diablo. Diablo's got insanely good animations during its scenes. So. Yeah, I would say if anybody's interested, hey, it's coming. You can do right now. No word on if WoW is going to be on consoles officially. I believe, if I remember right, it works now on the Edge browser on the Xbox, because I believe mouse and keyboard works. But somebody in chat who's tried that, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe xCloud, right? I think somebody said xCloud works on that with mouse and keyboard and the Edge browser, but I could be wrong.
Get the name of it, but the animation studio that did the animations for Old Republic as well, also.
Oh, you
Very
mean
much at the
they're
top of,
very much at the
Star
top.
Wars.
Oh, dude, absolutely. The Star Wars animations, not only that, but they've nailed telling stories around Star Wars. So, I mean, admittedly, so
Yeah,
it's
and
cool,
and non-verbally too, like even without dialogue.
Yeah, very good job. And let's see, The War Within. Wow, The War Within is August 2nd. So not too far from now, just about a month. Next up was Metal Gear Solid Triangle Snake Eater.
Yeah, I don't know what you're supposed to call it. It has a triangle in the name.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we just say Snake Eater.
Yeah, I guess Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean
the original was just Metal Gear Solid
Delta,
3.
people are saying.
Delta?
Yeah, Delta. Yeah.
Okay.
So Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater.
I have seen
Metal Gear Solid Delta.
Mentioned as Delta.
Okay. Delta. So Metal Gear Solid Delta, not Metal Gear Solid Remake Delta, blah, blah, blah. But what I saw, it's a stealth game, so I'm a fan. As in, I'm a fan of them showing it. And I'm not a big fan of going back and replaying a game I've actually, experienced before, but what have you. Remakes don't excite me as much. But I saw some people were really interested in it. I don't know. Are you guys going back to Metal Gear? I mean, is this going to be on your stable of titles to play?
Maybe. I mean, Snake Eater is probably my favorite Metal Gear Solid game.
There you go.
So maybe, but on the other hand, it's also quite old now, and the isometric view I don't think has aged very well. I think it's still mainly like isometric, right?
It looks to me like they've switched to third person.
Or is it fully
think so.
third person?
Over shoulder.
I believe
Little
so.
Gears of
Okay.
War-ish.
Right. Okay.
So that might
'Cause
fit more to what you
The
like
footage I
than
saw earlier did still make it look a lot like Snake Eater, like the original
like
Snake
the
Eater, just
original,
with
yeah.
better graphics.
Yeah, it looks...
That would definitely be an improvement, and that might actually help catch my interest in playing it.
Right, because the camera view can definitely make everything feel a very specific way. That's why they're chosen. Next up is Sea of Thieves, new update, July 25th. This, I should point out, is on GeForce Now as well. Sea of Thieves is on GeForce Now, which is great. If you're playing titles on GeForce Now, there you go. It looks like there's a new event. There's all kinds of new crazy stuff. Silver is the resident Sea of Thieves guy. Did you see anything here? Or
I didn't actually, because sadly I haven't really played Sea of Thieves for like 3 months now. I will be getting back into it at some point, just not sure quite when. So I didn't really follow up on it, unfortunately.
I think what's sort of fascinating about this one and Grounded, well, Sea of Thieves in particular, actually, right now, is that, and Fallout, you could say. Fallout saw a huge success because of the show, and now it's exploding, right? And then Sea of Thieves is selling on PlayStation in like one of their top spots. So it's got a bunch of new. So it's weird to see these titles revitalized like this. It's very unique to sort of see what they're going to do with all the new players. How do they onboard them, which, as we've discussed, has been an issue in the past. Certainly an issue with like Destiny. How do you onboard new gamers? And then how do you reward a gamer like yourself who goes back maybe once every 6 months, plays a bunch, and then puts it down for 6 months? Because I don't know how they do that. But this, it looks like they've got enough events, and they already did the private servers or whatever. Personal servers, is that what we're calling them? Personal servers? Is that the...
They're not... No.
They're not personal.
No, I don't think that would be the right way to say it. They're closed so that you can only take out like one ship for that server.
Oh, okay.
So, for instance, if you can only take out like a 4-man galleon or 1 3-man brig or 1 2-man sloop.
Okay. And then moving on from there, let's talk a little bit about Flintlock. So I did a preview of Flintlock. Flintlock's trailer is playing right now. Flintlock is one of those games that it's a lot like Banishers, I think, personally, where it's like in that AA section. I felt it wasn't super rough, but it was a somewhat rough demo. I didn't have any crashes or performance issues, and I did see people who played the demo did have that in our Discord. I saw 3 or 4 people saying, hey, I had crashes. Luckily, I didn't have any of those issues, but what I'm saying is with a game that was running well, I still had it was still pretty rough. It's, it's like, it's not...
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I agree with you. It looked rough. To me as well.
Did you see anything in this that... I'm going to rewind the footage a little bit back. Did you see anything in this that interested you, Johnny, when it comes to Flintlock?
Yeah. I like the style, like the presentation looked good. The mobility around levels with the flying, with the spirit thing, I'm into that. I like that. And there was some cool like kick animations. I'm
Definitely
a huge fan of.
Yeah.
You may know I'm a huge fan of kicks in games for some reason.
It's just disrespectful.
It is, and it's fun. And there was a particular kick combo into a shotgun that looked very satisfying that I saw. I noted that down. And the mobility skills looked pretty good. That was kind of my thing. It looked to be Souls-light, but very mobile. Not like this heavy, crunchy.
I will say, I agree that those moves are the best part. I wish they felt more fluid in the game, because when you're playing in the game, you have your normal Dark Souls style combat, moving to the sides.
Yeah.
You have a great weapon parry that I think is awesome. If they're doing a power attack, you can leap out of the way, but the gun will stop almost anybody from doing a power attack. And I really thought that felt good. But then, and taking people's shields off was awesome with the hook of your axe. That's all like sort of based a tiny bit in realism too, like pulling on somebody's item if it's sticking out too far, trying to disarm them. And then you do this amazing kick attack that is like 10 times faster than any animation of the game. So it looks awesome, but it looks like mini fatalities in Mortal Kombat, if that makes sense. So it graphically, there's an adjustment there. But yeah, so that one's out. If anybody wants to check out the demo, it's free. Flintlock, the Siege of Dawn, and that comes out July 18th. And then Age of Mythology Retold. This is September 4th. It's a fan favorite, but I don't know about you guys. I saw this, and to me, it was nothing. I was just like, okay, it's Age of Mythology. But damn, are there a lot of RTS fans in our Discord? Because apparently I was the only one who thought, oh, it's a remake of Age. People were excited. I don't know why, but they were. Are you guys? I mean, did you see anything there with that sort of grabs you guys?
No, but I was also never really into Age of Mythology back in the day.
Were you into Age of Empires?
I did play Age of Empires, but I think just I think the whole like that whole RTS combination trying to go with Civilization, I always gravitated more towards Civilization back then than playing those.
That's fair.
Like same thing with Age of Empires and Fallen Empire Earth rather.
Empire Earth, yeah,
and
so
stuff
good.
like that.
What about you, Johnny?
Yeah, I don't know. I did play a lot of Age of Empires growing up, but I don't know if now I have that in me. Because when I look at it, the idea of controlling a lot of units is much less appealing than controlling, one or two or a few units who each have, like, a kit or interesting things in whatever way that may be done. But yeah.
The fun thing about Age of Empires, though, was that they did have like the short scenarios, like historical like scenarios you could play that were basically like small, very small mission-based
recreations.
campaigns.
Yeah.
That were a lot more focused than like the typical 1v1 or 2v2 strategy, real-time strategy battles or whatever.
Yeah, I just know myself too well in the fact that I'm looking at this, it looks cool. I would, that I'm thinking that, that would be cool. But I kind of know myself in that within 10 minutes, I would be kind of moving on to something else.
Agreed. Yeah. Speaking of moving on, let's move on to something that was also a huge surprise, and that's Perfect Dark. So, dude, that was, I mean, I hope
surprise of the entire show for me.
Yeah, that would be equal, now that I think about it, to the other title that I thought very Deus Ex looking. Reminded me a lot of Deus Ex at times, and Mirror's Edge in the movement. Go ahead, Silver. What do you think?
How much from the original? I'm just curious, because I didn't play the original. Nothing, right?
No,
the original,
not really.
The original was kind of a reskinned GoldenEye.
Okay.
Yeah, it was way more on the GoldenEye side than it ever was on the Deus Ex side. Like, like this is a sort of a complete.
Like it was in the GoldenEye engine and whatnot, and it was a rare game, as well.
Dude, this combo of parkour.
I mean, the genuine surprise here is because we've had a rumored follow-up to Perfect Dark that's been canceled and whatnot, and been vaporware, and so I'd given up any like semblance of hope or notion that there would ever be another Perfect Dark game. So to see it here and see it look like, just see it look and play, was amazing, frankly. And very, very much looking forward to playing. I was like, it looked like performative gameplay, like you all often see in these gameplay demos. It didn't look like genuine gameplay. But like the concepts that they showed were compelling to me, and they made me hopeful that ghost playthroughs might be possible for the stuff where you can play through without taking out guards or whatnot. So definitely hoping for that game to deliver on that.
Yeah, I wrote in my notes that some of it looked performative, or I just called it like a previs kind of thing. But then you are seeing HUD elements changing, and so there's a lot going on that would almost be difficult to even fake, as much as, maybe this is sort of their idea, little snippets. I'm going to go on the side of some of it'll be there and some of it will for sure not be here, but at least we're seeing, gameplay actually occurring, little quick movements on the camera when you get stunned and stuff. That aren't too animated to the point to where it feels like CGI or something like that. So, but what I saw, the way it looked like Deus Ex, some of the ideas that they had, fits what I was hoping for a Perfect Dark, but never assuming would actually happen. I was actually hoping for something like this. It's certainly not this Deus Ex-y, actually. I Deus Ex-y, sexy. Yeah, sexy. I like what I saw, but after Cyberpunk, and they showed footage of stuff that wasn't there, I'm always of the opinion that it's like, oh, the one thing I will say is graphically, the big positive I got from this is nothing here looked impossible. That was one nice thing. It was like, true. That is, all of that is distinctly possible. Whether it will be present, then we don't know. But
the only thing I don't know how possible it is to have truly like free gameplay on some of the stuff we saw, kind of along the lines of what you guys are saying with the performative. You know, there's one segment there where you shoot someone, they fall off a balcony, and then you proceed to jump off the balcony in the opening they created, and then you fall on top of them and knock them. That type of stuff probably is like scripted or
well,
just
it's probably
animated for you.
It's probably animated when you're in a move set, like an animation in Assassin's Creed. And if that's true, you're good to go. No issues. You can do that in a game currently. If they were trying to pretend it was freeform, which I don't think they were, I didn't see that. It looked like it was like a move canned on top of another move, almost like a power move on top of a power move. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
That sort of is what I'm expecting.
I would be fine with that. What I didn't understand is how granular is the canned, like, can I shoot this guy in a different location in the balcony and he will still fall through and break the balcony for me to jump?
Or will he not break the balcony?
Is it this specific?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm nitpicking, really. I thought it looked great, man.
I don't think that's nitpicking. I think that's just coming off of... I don't think that's nitpicking. I mean, it's just...
I don't think so either.
It's just sort of what it is when it comes to trailers.
It leaves you wondering, doesn't it?
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, I think graphically what we saw, completely possible. Animation, completely possible. And some of that looked... it's a lot of work to fake it. And sometimes it makes less sense to fake it than to say, let's get a little space that we do have well made in our demo and throw it out. But I did hear some rumors it was in bad shape, and what I'm looking here doesn't look in bad shape. So then that makes me a little inside baseball go, what am I seeing? But we don't know, because we're looking at like your God of Wars and stuff like that look amazing now. Your Senua's Sacrifice, your Hellblade 2, all these games that do look good, maybe less gameplay on that section. This, for this amount of movement, looks completely possible so far. But I want to see more, obviously. And then who gives a shit what it looks like, because it may end up being, like some kind of amalgamation of ideas that don't come together either. I mean, that's true. That's one thing. I have to go look at who's working on it. What DNA did they bring to it? DNA matters. Why do you think we got the Hinterlands? Because two MMO people helped out on the major parts of that particular location. That's why it feels that way. So DNA matters.
It is interesting. Speaking of DNA, by the way, like the parkour stuff, clearly Mirror's Edge.
Absolutely Mirror's Edge. Yeah.
But one very interesting thing to dissect is that you don't have the highly, contrasted, colorful elements that Mirror's Edge had.
It's more like Dying Light in that way.
Yeah, it's more like that because Mirror's Edge, they use that to tell you, which way you should pay attention, which way you should go. And looking at some of the footage, I kind of felt like it felt pretty natural. Like, for example, there's an open window here, and there's a rug being moved by the wind, so it's calling your attention to it in a fairly natural way, instead of the bird poop or bird droppings we see in. There was some of that, but I felt it was quite subtle and pretty well done.
Yeah, it'll need to be really well done in a environment that busy, because I had those issues in, of all things, Mankind Divided.
Well.
In Mankind Divided, there were a couple times where I tried to jump onto a ledge and I couldn't get onto it, and I thought I could for quite a period of time. Yeah. Before I realized.
And we had that in Tomb Raider.
If you turned any of the
if you turned
off.
It down. Yeah.
Let's see. Just looking at chat before we move on there. Perfect Dark looked amazing. Yeah, I have a feeling it'd be pretty linear, but it still looks like it could be fun. Slower than I assume. Oh, they must be talking about a different one. Was Perfect Dark on N64? Yes. I'm excited to see the laptop gun come back. Oh, from Perfect Dark. Okay. For some reason, I thought you meant like there's a real gun there. It'd be awesome if you could play the original Perfect Dark on the laptop. That would be cool. Yeah. That would be awesome. But yeah, for now, we just have no clue. We'll just have to wait and sort of see what we see. But yeah, I don't think it's nitpicking, dude. It's just understanding where we are right now with technology and technology is good enough that you get a Mirror's Edge and a Dying Light 2, and this is a combination of both, and then Deus Ex on top of it, that's a lot. That's what I worry about, is biting off more than you can chew with this many ideas, because Deus Ex doesn't necessarily fit perfectly with the movement I saw. Deus Ex sometimes is a little bit more cerebral looking around the environment, so it'll be very interesting to see how they bounce off those two. Next up is, what is this? Diablo, Vessel of Hatred. So, first of all, amazing name. Diablo's so edgy, man. It's like, it really is, it really is me as a 19-year-old finding some CD, some dark, edgy CD cover. Everything about Diablo 4 is that way. Once again,
discovering metal for the first time.
Yeah. Avenged Sevenfold, or Breaking Benjamin or something.
Oh, yeah.
Diablo, I mean, I don't know what state Diablo is even in anymore. That's, I think, my big problem, is I'm not even quite sure where Diablo is when it comes to its space in, how popular it is or what issues it has, because I just haven't jumped in more than the little bit I did. Do you guys know much, if anything, about Diablo 4? Okay.
I haven't played in...
I know that some of the changes have been really well received, like good. Some of the quality of life changes, like inventory, better loot drops and how that happens. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely improved. I would still say it's not a game with the biggest like longevity, especially for me. I kind of view it as, whenever there's a big story expansion, I probably will jump in and enjoy it, because I enjoyed the story a lot in it. But for just replay for different characters and stuff, that's not really something I'm interested in.
Yeah, I would say with Diablo, there is no surprises, right? It's just, it is what it is. It's Diablo. Yep. I'm fine with that. Is it for me? No, it is not. But I have nothing but good tidings for it and want it to do well. There's just a lot of games in that space too, where it's hard to even know what one I would be in. Like if you guys said, let's play one of those games, there's like probably 7 right now that I could choose from. Some indies, a couple in early access, plus this.
That's part of it too. I have some real burnout, because I played, Path of Exile recently. Yeah. I played the other one, blanking on the name, another amazing one. But anyway, I've played like quite a few of those, and they kind of all try to do a very similar thing.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But yeah, when you play several back to back,
Can I just also point out, we've mentioned it 3 times, I'm going to mention it again. The fucking cinematic where she's talking to the diamond or the jewel and like it's bleeding weird stuff out of it. I was like, damn. And you see already the water around her and all the dead fish, even when they're starting. So you're like, something like, what is going on to this? That was, see, that's the thing, man. They can, yes, the cinematics look way different than the game, but they do a good job of making me think if somehow I could no clip and zoom all the way down to the character, they'd look somewhat close. They wouldn't. I'm saying they sell the fiction well enough.
They do.
That I'm like, oh, dude, this is amazing. And she got done dirty. In the end of that, at the very end of that trailer, you're like, damn, man, that is dark.
And that character already went through some shit in the main campaign that even like made me feel bad for her and stuff. Right. So it's like, it really makes you think how much torment there can be and how like
how much somebody
would be just
better. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like,
yeah. Just kill me now kind of thing.
Yeah, just wrap it now.
They just do such a good job with so even more than WoW, because WoW is very colorful and sort of comical in its look, and then but the cinematics are not, right? Type. So there's a split. Yeah. But with Diablo, they're like, this is straight up dark, and then you play Diablo and it's straight up dark, and there's a little less of a bump between the two. It's a little bit easier to like weave between those two things with Diablo than it is with WoW. But yeah, I'm watching this right now. Dude, their animation, they just need to do movies for me. Like just a bunch of movies.
They need to just make a movie.
I mean, I'm sure you can download the movie cutscene movies of Diablo 3 and 4, and they would be well worth. And by the way, I should say all the way back to like 2, their animation team nails it.
Especially the ones they did for the remake of 2.
Yeah,
where they reworked the cutscenes.
so good. But I'm watching this water with fish fall in it, and I'm like, that is, they just do a good fucking job, man. Good job. So good on them for that. Next up, more interesting is Fable. Small bits of gameplay. What do you think, Johnny? Because like I know you've been a little bit more interested in Fable than I think
and I
expected.
haven't played the originals, so I was kind of curious to see what this is. I like the world, the way it looks. You know, it's not the highly stylized thing that I expected.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit more, well, it's still cartoony in places, but I like the look, and I think this could be really interesting to explore. I have no idea what to expect, really, because they didn't show a lot, as you noted down, and also I didn't play the originals. So actually, in terms of gameplay and stuff, I don't really know what I'm looking at, but I'm
all for whatever you're saying. Real quick, let me read these super chats. Christopher Weaver, $5 super chat. ACG crew, I'm happy to stop in before work. Appreciate you guys. Keep it up. Thank you very much. Also, if you guys get a chance, I would love for you to open up this video, thumbs it up, leave a comment on it when we're done, as well as review it on iTunes or Spotify. It fucking super helps this channel. Danny Passion, $5 super chat. A curious question. Does anyone on the panel know the definition of the word Diablo?
It means devil in Spanish.
Yeah. I would say with Fable, I don't know. I don't feel that they're hitting Fable 1 and 2 and 3. This is Fable for a new generation.
Fresh take.
I feel. But let's go with what Silver feels. Silver, you liked them. I liked them. Well, some of them. Does this feel like Fable to you, or does it feel like its own? I mean, it's okay. It's called Fable, but I'm just saying, does it feel
right
any way to you like even a spiritual successor to the Fable games?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does sort of carry that fairy folktale
fair
aspect that was sort of the main through line of Fable. And then it adds that sort of quintessential sense of Britishness, I guess. That was the other quintessential thread of Fable. That feels like it's there, but that's going to be hard to determine until we actually have the game ourselves, I think, to what extent that is successful. Because, I mean, you had a game with Fable where your main way of like interacting with villagers and stuff was farting at them and stuff like that, to either get to like you or dislike you. So how they carry that tone through, I think we'll be curious to see. I didn't really get a sense of how combat will play,
right?
Because that was something that obviously evolved quite a bit with the first Fable game being somewhat challenging, and Fable 2 and 3 basically not being challenging at all. Also, like this will be a Fable game without a dog as a companion, which is another substantial deviation from the last 2 Fable games, where you had a dog as a companion. Will it feature the golden trail to lead you to wherever you need to go, like Fable 2 and 3 did? I didn't seem that way from the presentation. So hopefully they go back toward the first Fable for a lot of stuff, and maybe they can retain some of the best stuff from particularly 2, because 3 I think we can just kind of forget about.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So here's what bothered me about this. So in the first ones, you sort of made, there's a lot of impact between you and the character that you've made and the people around you. And right now, It seems to be focused on one character that's doing a thing, like you're forced into this very particular sort of style. And then when I noticed they're walking around the city, they talk to people in the city far more closer to a Final Fantasy or a Mass Effect than they did the original Fables, which was more an interactive, baby interactive, because there was barely any characters in that game, but an interactive sort of town or city. And so what I need to see is just what is the interactivity level, because to me, Fable was about the interactivity, even if it was
for sure,
lesser so.
particularly the first game, right? Where like that's another question: will they have like the scarring
Exactly.
from the first game
You
that
just hit...
disappeared with 2 and 3?
Yep.
Where in the first game, if you got hit by the enemy, you would get a scar. And that scar would be permanent. So, like, if you weren't very good at combat, by the end of the game, you would basically be like scar tissue all over your body, from cuts, from swords and stuff. And conversely, if you were very good, it would show that you had been very good.
Yeah, I agree with all that. To me, it feels like it's going to be more of a story fable about that character, which is fine, by the way. It is how many ever years after 3? I mean, it's been forever. So it is what it is, and new people will be able to jump in. I think that's going to be great. But so far, what we've seen, even with the combat, with the characters, the way they're talking, it doesn't have almost any of the sense of humor. Also, the narration that existed, I need to know how that narration, if it works at all here, because I did love the narrator in the original, you know, talking about what you did. And there was almost a puzzle, not a puzzlement, I don't know what the term would be, but there was a mysteriousness that existed in the world that they haven't shown even a bit of yet. It's been more, here's action, here's a cool looking boss, here's a character running, here's no golden path. But in the originals, there was that sense of, here's a mysterious talking door, here's a mystery down this. There's almost, probably because the character was also younger when you started. And so it felt like...
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
No, just completely agreeing with you.
Yeah.
All of, like, that sense of mystery was a huge part of the first Fable game. And again, also the aging, the fact that your character actually aged through the years and became older. That too played a significant part as well. And it also played a part in getting married and getting kids and whatnot in the game as well. Where in Fable 2 and 3, you don't really age the character.
Right.
Like, you age from, like, you start as a child and then you age to, like, young adulthood, but you don't really age beyond that in those games. And, like, even, like, the choices and consequences kind of got really watered down as well from the first game to those later games. From what I remember being very disappointed with, like, particularly the latter story parts of 2, and, like, 3 just being completely terrible. Like,
yeah, it feels to me like there's a desire almost to hit a Mass Effect style feel versus what we saw. Even in the original games, the choices weren't always like world hinging, like, are you going to help this person defeat a demon, or it was like, are you going to kick a chicken or not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or related to, like, one particular quest to that particular, like, situation.
Right.
Or family, or person, or family, or whatever it involved.
Yeah. So it's sort of up in the air, but that, again, this is just, you know, what we've seen in the trailers. And also they say 2025. There's been, you know, multiple hedgings on if that's current or not, if that's going to happen or not. I don't know anything about when it will come or what the idea of when it will come is. It looked far along in some bits, but then you could tell the HUD was removed and a little bit was gameplay, but a lot of this was just your cinematics. So it'll be a while before we sort of see exactly where they're hitting and what their time frame is. But interested in seeing it, just need to see more to, you know, to sort of understand exactly what they're trying to hit. Now, the next one up is another surprise of the show to me, probably a very unpopular surprise, but let me explain why. I'm not a hero shooter fan. They don't do it for me for the most part. Hero shooters have to do something special, like finals with destructible landscapes and just fun to watch.
Just Incorporated. For me.
For you. With Frag Punk, there were a couple things that I really liked. First of all, I always bitch about this in card games, that the cards are just a flat thing that you lay down. And usually on many card games, you either see nothing or a character on the screen replicates it. The idea that you smash these cards while you're in the middle of battle to flip the landscape upside down, grow grass, make the enemies have big head mode so you can snipe them easier, that's what I've always wanted. And the reason why is because I want a game where if I pull off a power, guess what that is? It's a fucking power. It's not this. It's fuck this particular area of the earth. And I'm using it one time, and it's ultra powerful. Because, guys, we live in a world where in a hero shooter, a rocket isn't even a big deal. Because everybody's got them. Right? So the idea of going back and looking at a title like this and seeing super powerful stuff like the ability to grow grass to cause a to cause stealth to be possible in a location, that excites me. That means, and it's also, I like the idea of that balance. Oh, I know this area is grass, so I know what hero's here. Because they're the only ones who can do this instead of, oh, it could be a heavy or a light or a medium like you would do in the finals. You're all, I know exactly what enemy's here. Our heads are huge. I know what enemy we're facing. What does that mean? Am I going to stick my head out of places? Am I going to wait till that power goes away? Is the power forever in the level? Is it a mutator where it's there until you kill the other character, which I think would be amazing if you had something like that. Those are the kind of things that excite me because hero shooters have a tendency to be really balanced, and I'm okay with that if the powers are really insanely powerful, and we haven't really seen that too much. There's been a couple games that have tried it, but they have a tendency to roll it back and like panic and go, oh, this is we got to nerf this, the grass will be it's too high. That's what I'm worried for this game. But I think it looks like you have a loadout of 3 to 4 cards per match. To me, that's exactly the right number. I just think it looked awesome. Did you guys see anything from this that looked, from Frag Punk, that looked exciting? Did it? I mean, I get it if you're not into hero shooters, because that's where I was prior.
I'm not, but I think the rule changing is pretty fresh. That's pretty unique. It almost felt like a board game.
Yeah,
where,
true.
You know, you pull a trick and now everybody has to deal with this thing.
Right.
That, you know, it kind of reminds me of Dice Throne, which is that game you got me into recently. It has a couple things like that, not that big, but yeah, still that's really cool that we haven't seen.
Yeah, because dude, the idea of you and I playing, or all of us playing, and suddenly big head mode is on the enemies excites me to no end. Like the idea of that is like, oh, fucking finally, like that is. Yeah. That is such a feel. It is such a different feel for a hero shooter. What about you, Silver? Anything? Did this just not? It's probably
no. Yeah. Like same That's skepticism fair. Towards hero shooters as you.
I get you. It's definitely one of those. It's one of those things where hero shooters are just sort of a particular.
Yeah, and I mean, and then on top of that, for me, just a general aversion toward PvP games in general.
Absolutely fair. Yeah, fair. That boy Mikey, $5 super chat. He says, love the podcast. Just finished Brooklyn Nine-Nine because you recommended it. Might be my favorite comedy show ever. Thanks, ACG. Hey, it is not just me. Johnny has brought it up. Absy has brought it up. They are hilarious. It's really fun to sort of sit back and just watch a fun show. I always love it when I find a really enjoyable show that breaks me away from, that expected. So I'm glad you like it, and I'm glad we could at least in some way, get you some value from the podcast. Curious to see, this is Dylan says, curious to see how Frag Punk handles visual clutter. Thought of everyone popping these cards all of a sudden. Yeah, from what I can tell, I think from what I can tell, the powers,
there's like a cooldown.
Yeah, and there might be an overlap where you can't do like 2 sections of grass on the same area. So if you both had that hero or you both have that card, maybe you can't do that. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, or you have to build up to be able to use the card in some way.
Right, take out a few enemies to build it
to meet some conditions, or
Or like Dice Throne, where if you don't do well with the samurai, for instance, you actually hit harder.
Dude.
So that would be amazing if you had this positive negative and you have a card down here that you can't use unless you suck. if you die 5 times, you can now use this card. You'll have people dying on purpose, but I like that idea. I love the idea of throwing a little bit of like fresh ideas in there where you're like, why would anybody do that? Oh, now I know why they would do that. So yeah,
that'll mess up my kill death ratio.
Yeah, exactly. And some people don't care about that, right?
Yeah.
Most of us do, but some people don't. Moving on from there, Frag Punk, like it's stated, sometime in 2025. Next up is Winter Burrow, which looked like Don't Starve with Rats. Johnny and I both had the same note.
Yeah, it did. But it looked good, though.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that looked like a fun indie game. Very polished, very charming.
Yeah, I thought...
There's something about the cold of winter with the rat that made me relate back to like older cartoons that I guess I watched as a kid or something, with just the stern winter and the rat and everything. Yeah, I think there's somewhere in the back of my mind some older cartoon that I used to watch or something. It felt very nostalgic.
Are they rats or are they mice?
I'd say mice. Mice. Yeah.
Yeah, they look cutesy and like...
Yeah, they're not rats a nim, even though I wrote that in my notes. That was the first thing. But it's
also, I don't think their tails were like pink. And
I didn't look close enough.
Like rats. But
I wasn't watching their tails, Silver.
But they do have really long... Yeah, I don't know, Silver. Probably mice, I think. Yeah, mice. Yeah, but it looks cool. I like this kind of stuff, and I love animal-based things, like that RTS Tooth and Tail that came out that was mice and rats, so I'm sort of into that.
I think it's also just because, like, having grown up on, like, a lot of European, like, children's storybooks and stuff, anthropomorphic mice are very prevalent, so it looks very evocative of that.
Yeah, for sure.
True.
Love the games. $5 Super Chat. Gonna see Deadpool 3 in IMAX 3D. So are we, I think. Miss your Wednesday streams. Can't wait for the new channel with more live streams. I'm playing Project Zombioid 24/7. Yeah, I would say the chance of me doing more... Well, Wednesday might return. We're just trying to really figure out what's going on with the algorithm and stuff like that. So got YouTube supposedly working on the case, but I feel like I've said that now for 3 months. But yeah, we're trying to definitely figure that out. We are looking at live streams for events. Johnny and I have done events. Silver's definitely done events. Reg has done events. Absy's done events. So live streams of Gamefest could have happened, but that was honestly me just being borderline swamped with work on the previews you guys saw, as well as a review next week. So... but normally I would have done those, and you'd probably see that either on the other channel or on here. Next up is Mixtape. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm losing my gamer cred, but I liked this.
You were into it? Okay.
It's my type of music. Well, it's not my type of music, but it's one genre. It's one generation I lived through, at the very least. Certainly started in it, I would say. But it's any game that like takes modern music. Dude, you're talking to somebody who played Crazy Taxi and had to listen to the same Offspring song like for 7,000 fucking hours. It was like yeah, and you're just like,
or all the time.
Or like
you had to
Tony
play
Hawk.
FIFA. I remember playing FIFA '98 World Cup and getting the Chumpawamba, I Get Knocked Down song.
I get knocked down, and I get knocked again. Dude.
And over again in that game.
And as Johnny said, Tony Hawk with their licensed tracks.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm into it. I'm also into the nostalgic idea of like kids, and then also the paranormal. I'm a big fan of Stranger Things. So to me, because this is basically their own version of all of this, it excited me. Rush, Iggy Pop, Susie and the Banshees. Those are all groups that either my parents liked, older brother, or I heard depending on the time frame. And I like the idea of all of this mixed together. So I don't know. It looked like Stranger Things, but with more bombastic powers, I guess, because they're sort of going crazy on the power. They showed dinosaurs at one point, and I don't know what that's about. They show like dinosaurs in a rising sun, so it's like, not quite sure. But it looks awesome, and it looks like it has the humor of Stranger Things, which has some humor. At least it did in the first 3 seasons. It's now gone to like super dark, but yeah, looked awesome to me. Anything else for Mixtape that you guys saw, liked, disliked, care, don't care? No?
I didn't see it,
Okay.
so
Not much from me. Yeah, I would be interested in it, but we have
Now-
to see more.
Let's talk about the big one, though, man. Dude, I was blown away. The fucking flight sim.
Yeah.
Dude, that game looks so good, and it's so enjoyable in a zen kind of way. It just,
Mm.
oh, dude.
I feel like that the thing with the jobs they showed
Mhm.
is the one thing that I was missing
Fair enough.
to get into it. It's the fiction of like, I'm doing this for a reason,
Mhm.
even if it's a light fiction.
yeah, like KARAK kind of talked about with Destiny, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Missing that from that
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. So the idea of like, oh, you're an airline person, or you're a private plane pilot, that type of stuff, that looked really cool.
Yeah, I mean, onboarding was a problem with the original, even though it was fairly easy to actually play, even with a controller. Once you learned, it was arcane when you first, and then like Silver said, trying to install it, and it felt like a PC game on a console. If you were doing the console version, PC game
Right.
gamers are already accustomed to it, but for a lot of console players, they were a little confused. What surprised me is how many jobs they had in this trailer. They had
Yeah.
way more jobs than I expected. Honestly, I was expecting just a couple things, and it looks like they've gone out of their way to make
Everything
sure
from
there's
like emergency evacuation to
cargo
like,
transports,
food delivery to
Yep.
yeah.
remote cargo. I'm looking aerial firefighter. Like the firefighter
Yeah.
one could be a blast. Now, this is dark, but I just want to mention it. Firefighter, because of last year where I was in Oregon, where you had the
Right,
massive
yeah.
fires, it's like, would they, I don't know. It's probably pretty too
Oh.
dark because people are losing their homes.
Too realistic.
Right, but I
Yeah.
was like, I wonder if they would track, because that is tracked in their data, like fires, movement of
Right.
stuff. And I was all, I wonder if they would track that, because I like the idea in a weird way of going in and trying to, California wildfires, Washington, Oregon wildfires, obviously other states, but that's where I live. And I was like, oh,
I mean, I don't know how
that
accurately
idea.
they track like twisters and stuff.
Oh, dude, yeah. Oh, hurricane, like flying into a hurricane maybe in this game and trying to figure out hurricane data. That would be fun.
Right.
Like the military does. That would be cool. Dude, they showed a lot for that game though, man. That is, and they said coming November 18th to Game Pass. That's awesome. Man. That is a huge title. I don't know much about the DLC other than that there's a lot, and I think it's probably going to eat up a lot of my time with those jobs, because it feels like American Truck Sim,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah, only the scale is so much larger.
yeah, vastly, and that game is huge, right? That game
Yeah.
makes you pack a fucking lunch and make sure it doesn't mold. This game will make you build a fridge so that you can just
Yeah.
have it with you. Dude, it's awesome, man. And here's the thing. They showed flying together for area formations. I don't know if you saw that. There was an area formation kind of
Yeah.
mini game or job in there. But imagine if we could all play and firefight at the same time. To me,
Dude.
that would be awesome. Or remember helicopters during the bad ones will
Where you
pick
have to
water
do
out of
the
people's swimming
Aerial
pools?
flyover at the Super Bowl or whatever.
Oh my God, would that be awesome? Like the Blue Angels fly over, and
Yeah.
they have so many controls on speed so they don't do sonic booms and shit. Having to like fly in formation at just the right speed so that you're super fast, but you're not doing a sonic boom. Don't put out your brake.
You
That
don't
would be
shatter
awesome.
every window.
You don't, yeah, multiple millions of dollars in
Yeah.
lawsuits, as we know now. They've been sued a couple times for accidentally hitting that. But to me, guys, if we could all go and pick water out of swimming pools and fight fires together, that is a weird situation. It just feels like that would be so fucking fun. Now, does American Flight Sim or European Flight Sim allow for cargo trains? Like, you know what I mean? What's the term? Where you go with multiple trucks to deliver. Can you do multiplayer, multiple trucks taking deliveries?
Yes, you can do convoys.
Convoys. Thank you. I don't know why. Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah. See, I'm excited about this already, man. It's so dumb because I'm more excited about this than almost all the other games, and I'll probably
It's not dumb at all.
Well, what I'm saying is, what's
totally
dumb
relate.
is I'll probably turn it on, play it, and go,
Right, yeah, and then
this is
I get it.
unbelievable.
Yes, I
Let me
completely
go
understand.
back to a game that is still awesome, but doesn't require like me to fly perfectly with you guys. Like I don't know. I'm just excited.
No, I
for
totally get it.
It's one of those games that also helps because it does look so graphically amazing that it's fun to just experience it and fly around and just, get close to the ground. Edo Vault, $30 super chat. My favorite podcast. Thank you guys for always showing up. We appreciate it. I don't think we missed a Friday podcast since the freeze, right? We missed a couple during that. But hey, that wasn't anybody's fault. That was just life. But thank you very much. Absolutely appreciate it, man. Fires are constantly updated. You could do live firefighting. This is Alp Salish says that. Bitlerus says, my flying in Wildlands with the controller was on point. You're a fucking liar. Man, he made me sick. We jumped into Wildlands, and his flying, there was not a single...
Wildlands is pretty easy with a gamepad.
You would think. Generally, you would assume it would be easy, right? That dude was almost tore the wings off that little poor plane, man. It was a blast, though. We had a good time. Next up is ESO Gold. So, guys, ESO's huge. I don't have anything to say. It's a juggernaut of an MMO. I don't even know what this area adds because I haven't got through the areas from the original. I mean, it's just 10 years. ESO's been going for 10 years, man.
Yeah. And they're one of the few... Well, no, I don't know. Maybe WoW is the same, where each new content set is a new location.
Yeah, most are. Not all, but yeah, a lot of theirs are. But WoW has more expansions too.
Yeah. It's really cool to pick up a new expansion and say, okay, now we're going into this. And, it's a place with its own identity, and it's got stuff going on, politics and different things.
It's also fun, very fun to me in single player. I've enjoyed it immensely.
That's
just
how
jumping
I
in.
play it mostly.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes finding a friend who's not playing one of 10 other MMOs, sometimes you're just like, I don't want to try to put a team together. You feel like you're trying to hire everybody for a professional NBA team by the time you're done just getting some people together to play an MMO these days. So jumping into ESO single player. Did you ever do ESO much, Silver? Because I don't remember you talking about it too much.
I had very light familiarization with it through a girlfriend, but that was about it.
Gotcha. It just didn't really... Too many other things, I assume.
That and the MMOs have never really caught on with me particularly well. Just the sort of repetitive nature of the gameplay itself never really appealed to me all that much. What appealed to me was always like the immersive roleplay social roleplay aspect. So whenever I played MMOs, it was always like on roleplay servers with active roleplay.
Yeah. That makes sense. That dude, whenever you get into a good roleplay server, it is pretty awesome, though.
Yeah, I mean, like in Old Republic, like I trained a Jedi Padawan as a Jedi Master and stuff like that, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Living L 393rd. Yeah, CA $5 super chat. Are you guys picking up the PSVR PC adapter? And if so, what PC VR games are you most excited to play? I think that would just be me for the most part. I don't think overall these guys are probably going to jump in to that adapter. I don't think I will. I already have a really good headset and I have the PSVR too, but I don't have any real desire to plug it into my PC. So probably not, I guess, right? I mean,
Is that an official?
Yeah, it's their official adapter.
That adapter?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool though.
I think it's really cool if you already have a PSVR 2 and you feel like you're a little let down with the games or what have you, or you just want to extend it onto the PC. You can do it, and that way you don't have to buy another one, which is always a bonus, right? It's always grand. But currently, VR, I've got my setup, and I'm pretty happy with it. I don't really have to add anything else. Next up is Life is Strange Double Exposure. I was excited for this, but as always. What do you think, Johnny? Because I
Yeah.
saw you wrote parallel timelines.
Yeah, I like parallel timelines. I'm a bit conflicted because I've read about the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, and I know that the one thing we know about it is that it's impossible to access the different
dimensions,
the different worlds, or the different realities. But that is used as a premise in a lot of fiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whenever I see that in a game or a movie, in one hand, I like it because it's a compelling premise, but there's always in the back of my mind the snob saying, actually, we've read that in Sean Carroll's book that it's not possible. That's the one thing. But I like the setting. I think it is, like I said, a good premise for a story, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that it seems like they have two timelines that you're kind of going between, you're trying to fix one with the other in a way. I thought that was a cool way to do it.
What about you, Silver? Any chance of you playing this at all?
No.
Yeah. I didn't think so. With me, Life is Strange is about the characters, and I'm fine with new ones, but I'm very fine that they're bringing her back. I think that's awesome. Parallel timelines, yeah. I'm like Johnny. I do read all that kind of stuff, but I'm also consistently reminded how many times science is wrong each time we say something. So
Dude, that's true.
It's unobtainium or impossibilium. I just pretend that there's a material out there we're not aware of. Dilithium crystals for Star Trek, right? That's how they for the longest time powered their starships. So to me, I thought it looked awesome. Graphically, it looks cool. I like the idea of jumping into another Life is Strange. So I'm excited for that.
I want to clarify. It's not because I don't like the look of it or anything. It's just, it's still sort of my main guilty backlog is still Life is Strange in general. I haven't been able to really get into any of those games. So the idea of jumping into that one before like the first.
Is almost a no-go kind of thing.
Yeah, to where I would prefer to like go back if I'm gonna jump into them, but it just never really happens. Like circumstances kind of keep conspiring to not get me into those games.
There's also a melancholy feel that exists there that I have to be in the right mood for, because if I'm not, they can be a little depressing. They can be a little or a little downer, a little bit of a Debbie Downer, because obviously it's not called like Life is Strange, everything's perfect and shit.
Yeah.
If it was, that'd be great, but it's not called that. So
Life is Strange, Happy Days.
Yeah, Life is Strange. Use your powers to just get to bang everybody. That's not what it's about. It's just like Stranger Things, that kind of stuff. It's, teens, angst, and special powers.
Yeah.
Next up, Indiana Jones. What'd you think of this, Johnny? I saw you wrote some notes here for Indiana Jones.
Man, I liked it. I thought they recreated the cheesy, exchanges and the action and the villain, like with an accent every time, right? And
cartoons!
It felt
and he's
nostalgic.
dancing.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
It felt nostalgic, felt cool. I thought the way the action plays out I guess they were mostly cutscenes or like, in engine. But the way they played out felt a little bit like those movies where, they're falling from a place and
the big adventure serials kind of.
The big adventure stuff. Yeah, the set pieces where, okay, like this thing breaks and now this falls onto that and it's a big domino thing. This kind of big set pieces for action. I like it. I think they nailed it. The music also sounded pretty much Indiana Jones. I was like, yeah, this is. So I think if that was their goal to try to recreate the vibe, that for me they nailed. I don't know about the gameplay. We still haven't seen a lot, and I'm very curious how they're gonna do it with like a first person focus. And looking back at their games, it doesn't feel like Indiana Jones. So I'm very curious how they're gonna do it.
Yeah. Anything from you, Silver, on all this?
Yeah. I mean this is the one where unfortunately I'm Oscar the Grouch.
Oh,
The more I see of this game, the less interested I am. I think maybe I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. I've consumed Indiana Jones in all forms of media, movies, the Young Indiana Jones series, comic books, video games. So for me, like Indiana Jones is not just like Harrison Ford. It's a lot of different stuff, and for me, they didn't hit the tone right at all. And there's a couple of things. Like the first one, I think really that bothers me is Troy Baker as Indy trying to do a Harrison Ford impersonation that just doesn't work for me at all. Where I would prefer something like we've seen before, where I forget who voiced Indy in Fate of Atlantis and Emperor's Tomb and Infernal Machine. But it doesn't necessarily have to be Ford, even if you motion capture Ford, I don't think. But and then there's the tone, which again, like there's the tone and the villain, where again it's Nazis again, which to me is a complete lack of imagination. Because to me the best villains Indy has ever faced isn't really the Nazis; it's but like Belloc from Raiders, like his nemesis. Stuff like that, or even Mola Ram, incredibly fun, archetypical villain. So there's that, and then there's like the way they portray the Nazis. I feel like comes off more like the Wolfenstein games, than it does traditional Indiana Jones, where it's a lot samier and sillier than. Which, like the old indie movies, played it fairly straight with the Nazi characters for the most part. Like there were humorous aspects, like the Gestapo guy in Raiders, with the black leather trench coat and whatnot. Ronald Lacey's part could be a little humorous at times, but he was still played for like fairly straight. Where you get the extremely performative kind of cartoonish playing to the camera stuff that the Nazi villains do a lot in Wolfenstein, and that they did in the trailer here as well. That just doesn't feel like it belongs in Indiana Jones to me. So that, coupled with like the odd choice of first person perspective, coupled with other stuff, really sort of puts me off it.
Yeah, so I'm put off. I like other things that you don't, but I definitely am put off. The main thing is the third and first person. So I'm okay with it looking like Uncharted, because Uncharted doesn't look like Indy. Or Indy doesn't look like Uncharted. I mean, Uncharted is Indy. That's the way it is. Indiana Jones was around way before that time, and all those games have patterned off of it. I'm okay with the great granddaddy saying, "Hey, I look like this bitch," showing up and being in third person. I think the first person still looks offset oddly, because they are trying to mimic Harrison Ford, and when you jump into the first person, you immediately detach from all that, and the cutscenes then are a little bit more detached. I just don't think first person is working so far from what I've seen. That's my biggest gripe. I like
that. No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, what was you saying?
No, just that is really weird, right? Because they've argued that the reason they want to go first person is to put you in Indy's shoes, to make you feel like Indiana Jones. But then for the cutscenes, they go outside. So they really should have kept the cutscenes first person.
Yeah, they could have done that.
To sort of keep that, if that was the sort of immersion they wanted to go for, like that seems to me like that would have been the way to go, rather than trying to get like to have the cake and eat it too, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first and third, that's definitely the first person. When it comes to the mobility and movement, it's difficult to nail the swinging and the antics of Indiana Jones in first person, and we really actually haven't seen it done well, and I don't think currently right now we're seeing it done well. But I would say I'm okay with a couple things. The first is I'm vastly, as somebody who has had complaints about voiceovers in the past, I'm completely fine with Troy Baker. Would I love to have seen Anthony and Gruber do it? Yes. I think Anthony and Gruber is very close. He was so close, he played Harrison Ford's son in a movie with fucking Harrison Ford. if you're that close and we see him still do the occasional YouTube or Instagram where he nails it that close, I much rather would have had somebody so that you don't detach and go, is that so and so? But I'm okay with the generalized voice. I'm okay with Nazis, but the humor hits well for me right now. If it's not done a bunch, I think they were probably trying to nail it in the cutscene because it's a trailer and you want it to sort of hit for an event. We'll just have to see if that hits. When it comes to it, like enemies, I am much more of a fan of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom than I am any of the others. And that's very not as liked as the other Indiana Jones movies. And I get that and I understand why, especially when you look at the one where Sean Connery comes in. You definitely see that goes a little bit more goofy as it becomes more of an adventure movie than the original one. And certainly 2, which is I consider it The Empire Strikes Back of Indiana Jones. Number 2 is like, whoa, what the shit? This is dark. This is like a different thing. So I would have loved to have seen that kind of investigation, because there's a lot of stuff we've plumbed. It's almost like going in a Call of Duty and going, oh, we're going to go back to World War II. At some point, guys, different part of the war, a different thing. But so far what I saw has nothing to do with any of I can deal with all the other stuff. The first person, third person is what it just first person swinging and shit, man. I mean, dude, the number of games that have hit that is like less than 5. I mean, and even a Mirror's Edge or whatever, which is first-person parkour, I don't remember any swinging in it other than grabbing bars. But swinging on a rope in first person and having your head follow the track that you would in first person without being disoriented, that's hard to do. And like, I need to play this thing to figure out where we are with it. I like the idea. I like the idea, but there's a lot I need to see. I did find
a very odd choice.
It's a very odd choice. My personal belief, by the way, no backing for this. My personal belief absolutely is competition, and they do not want to be compared to Uncharted, because Uncharted has had 5, 6 plus spin-offs, 6 total games, I think, to nail Uncharted. That is a difficult thing for a company to go in and nail it as well. And it feels to me like Tomb Raider and Uncharted are these monoliths that have had incredible games, and this is that's rough.
Been a challenge for the Indiana Jones games for like from basically from Tomb Raider, right?
From Tomb Raider,
Infernal Machine had the same challenge, and Emperor's Tomb had the same challenge as well.
Where you had. And they've just got better, dude. The Uncharted's have just got, whether you like them or not, if you look at the tech and how it works and the level of cinematography is just like, Jesus. And also, Indiana Jones climbs to save his life. He rarely climbs as an activity like Nate does all the time, right?
Or
yeah, he's more like, I got to save my life. And so there's that sort of difference in activity level that we see, too.
The quintessential Indiana Jones scene that completely defines his character is from the very opening of Raiders, when he throws the whip to Alfred Molina's character, who then abandons him, and he has to jump the gap, and he grabs hold of the I forget the name of the bunch of roots or whatever that are hanging off the edge. And then he gets a hold of it, and it's holding him, and he smiles because he thinks, "Oh, I'm safe." And then all of a sudden, it gives. It pulls out, and all of a sudden, he's screwed. That singular moment to me is the quintessential definition of the Indiana Jones character.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. You know, I'm okay with them. Hey, you know what? Like, I want to see all of this kind of stuff sort of come to light when we get the game, and sort of identify exactly why it's all come together in this way. But I think you can definitely look at the competition in that space, and that's a rough-ass competition. And we see with the third person in the camera scenes, which is rigged by the same... rigged from the same models. They could have done the third person. You know, you can definitely see, in fact, it looks like at times there's probably some... There might be a possibility of seeing a third-person camera hack when this comes out on PC, because there's a lot of people who are able to hack the cameras these days, and I would like to see if that third-person character is running around, and it is just, you know, solidified into the first person for the game. It'd be very interesting to see, because some of the stuff that goes on in third person looks like it's the first person animations. So we'll just have to look. Anthony and Gruber game would a Mick Gruber game would be awesome. Yeah, probably. Understanding says nobody complains about Dying Light parkour in first person. Legitimately everybody complains. In fact, there's a brand new forum thread on a forum I follow where somebody is complaining about just that. But I'm glad you didn't see it, because there's no reason for you to see
really
complaints.
Swinging on ropes and stuff.
No swinging.
Barely any.
Light.
Yeah. But even if you
barely.
were, people were. I just saw a shit ton of complaints about that. Just it was probably 1 hour prior to this podcast when there was a new thread about it, because they've been doing so much DLC for Dying Light 2. Mecha Break is also coming out. So this is showing right now, 2025. I thought it looked good. A mech game, bunch of shit going on, Armored Core style. We've seen this trailer. We've seen a trailer before from these guys, but I don't know. Lots of missiles that can't aim, flying around, and lasers and big weapons. To me, this looks fun. Doesn't look like anything deeper than that. I don't know, Johnny. Anything from you?
Yeah, I thought it looked more fun than Armored Core, but this is from someone who didn't really, the game didn't really click with me, Armored Core. So this looked like there were a bit more like finisher type moves where you would, do a animation that looked really cool. I think that's more along the lines of what I would like in a game like this, but still being, fully open action and aiming and everything. So it looked good. The customization looked good. The models looked great. I love the mecha porn of like the little parts transforming.
Absolutely.
And, that type of stuff I love. And I did find that missing a little bit in Armored Core. The customization was great, but there wasn't a ton of that.
Like almost
Gundam
intricacy and the
stuff, I guess.
intricacy and like the mechanisms. Yeah, I agree with that. It went
almost
more
like
realistic.
An Iron Man suit.
Yeah, and it's like there's differences between 1980s Transformers, the cartoon, and the new movies. Where the new movies, there's a billion pieces. I like the middle ground, and I think this one's sort of the middle ground, where where like Armored Core is a little bit more old style, which I like, but it's definitely noticeable. This one just seems a little higher fantasy, even though it's not a fantasy. And I like the look of it. Graphically, it looks like an anime a little bit more, which I think people will like as well. So it's helpful. Anything from you on this one, Silver?
It reminded me a little of did you guys ever play let me just look. I forget.
Virtual On,
Robotech? No, Front Mission Evolved.
Front Mission Evolved, yeah, a little bit. At least in the design.
Yeah.
Next up, we've also got Wuchang Fallen Feathers. So, I don't know about you guys. This one, another Dark Souls style game, I guess. But Japanese Dark Souls style game. I feel like there's a lot of these coming out.
Am I the only one, and I know as I say that, I'm not, but who is now utterly confused with all the W names for games?
Yeah.
We have Wulong, Wukong, Wuchang.
Yeah, Wu-Tang Clan. Dude,
it's getting hard to keep track.
Yeah, I saw it, and I couldn't even... Not that... this is not a diss on the game, but I couldn't even tell if it was a trailer we had seen of another game. Or if it was its own thing at first, because they're just showing CGI, and I was like, is this like the character game that shows, that we saw at the Sony event? I was a little confused on what exactly I was seeing. Some of the combat looked fun, but there's a lot of these, man, and I don't know. I liked the enemy style, but I feel like we're saying this about a lot of these games. It's like, a lot look like Elden Ring, a lot look like they've cribbed Monkey Man, Dark Souls. A lot of them feel like Rise of Ronin, Phantom Blade. Sorry.
No, I was going to say this one is a bit of a faster, it looks like, type of game. Maybe a little bit more along the lines of Neo or even a combo-based, maybe. Yeah. I'm not sure. I think it is trying to do something Neo-esque. It looked good. It was very short, so we didn't see much. But yeah, overall it seemed to have potential.
Man, I don't know about you guys, but it's just it is really hard to track them. Ignoring it could be called, anything, a completely different name. It could have X's in its name. It could have like be all B's, and I would still have difficulty tracking which one was which because there's been so many. And we do see this. I'm sure you guys have seen this before in a certain gen. You'll get one game that does well, and then people don't want to copy everything, so they copy like the location. And you see 6 other games that are like space games, 6 other games that are like animal-based bad guys, 6 other games that are cyberpunk-based bad guys. That's what we have right now with the rogue-light kind of thing. Just sort of feels like there's a lot of overlap. And I saw that because many people, even in the Discord, were like, which one of these is this? Because they all thought we had already seen the trailer, which I think is a bad indicator of where we are with the overlap of all these. But it is coming in 2025. And there might not be as many noticeable entries in 2025 for this, especially if it comes in fall. It might have its own little space, What was the one that we played for the Xbox as well? Wulong? Yeah, damn, there's a lot.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. It's
after this, there's Avowed. So with Avowed, I like the big sort of push into big magic that I saw in the trailer, but I still just want to see the game. Like, they're showing a lot of these snippets. I would like to see a 20-minute deep dive into this. And if anybody on chat is like, there was a 25-minute deep dive or whatever, and I missed it, that's great. I'll check it out after the podcast. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Anything on Avowed get you? It just looks like their version of Outer Worlds, but in fantasy, which I'm sort of okay with, but I just need to play it. Anything from you guys for Avowed? Excitement? No excitement?
I think that's very fair. I mean, again, it is the lack of like real gameplay to get a sense of how the game actually plays. What are the classes going to look like? Even
the mechanics by now is sort of what we need to see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have an idea of the systems and stuff, maybe. But I mean, like ACG shared a lot. I have an interest in like the lore and the setting of
right
of the Pillars of Eternity games. So I am invested. But yeah, it would be nice to see some have a general sense of how the game will actually play at this point.
Yeah, I'm just anything. Go ahead, Johnny. If you have anything before I.
Yeah, I don't. I'll need to see. I think people are saying there is a 25-minute.
See, that's what I said.
Deep dive or gameplay. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. What I saw, I personally didn't like the gameplay. I didn't think it was very exciting. Like, okay, you're fighting these skeletons with shields and you have magic, so you freeze them. It seemed very simplistic. I don't know. I wasn't very excited about the gameplay, but again, they showed very little. So when I see more, I'll kind of give a better opinion on it. It seems like the big strength of the game is probably more on the narrative side, because they're talking about choosing your destiny and doing stuff like that. That could be very cool. I don't know how they will do it, whether it's going to be the 3-option dialogue system,
right.
The love-hate
somewhat punch. Like
I think
somewhat
one thing that does separate the game from stuff like Skyrim, I think, or the setting is the access to like guns, like Flintlock and matchlock weapons. I think that does sort of make a substantial difference, at least for me, in terms of combat potential.
Yeah.
I had mostly seen just the magic stuff, which looked a little bit generic for me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the question. This is the problem I've had with. I had a problem with Pillars of Eternity 2 in this way, and 1 a little bit, where while ACG and Silver like the location more than I did, ACG in particular is a big fan of the location.
Yeah.
I, for some reason, had a very difficult time finding something interesting to like grab onto
right.
in
Latch
that
onto.
location. And so what I'm seeing here is sort of a replication of that, where I need to sort of just walk around the world and see if something grabs me, because regardless of mechanics, regardless of whatever else, I need to be there a little bit more. And normally in a trailer by now, as close as we are, I would have seen that, because we're still seeing a bunch of trailers where they're showing these locations that, and I haven't yet looked at something and been like, wow, that gives me sort of explorer porn kind of moment where you're like, oh, that hill, over that hill is this, or in that spaceship landing on a planet, like with Outer Worlds, is this. Just haven't seen that yet. And they're going to have to nail the up close combat, because that's the big problem I think a lot of people had with Outer Worlds, was that whenever you grabbed a sword or a hammer or whatever in Outer Worlds and you swung it, you were like,
Yep. Yeah, melee is hard to do.
Yeah, melee is hard to do.
Man.
It is very hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to get it right. And those who do get it right are usually rewarded with people loving the game. Usually, if they get it right, it usually everything else can build from that, because you're enjoying the very ground basics. I think the magic helps and firearms help. If, let's say, that up close isn't working out though, and I switch to firearms and magic, there's gonna be a thing in the back of my head that consistently says, this feels like Outer Worlds now, even more than it did, because I am ignoring up close once again. That's a little bit what I'm worried about. A little bit, just it's the one little teetering bit that I'm hoping doesn't happen. But
one of the things that I'm very curious about is how they're going to handle like stats in particular, because that was one of the things I appreciated the most about Pillars of Eternity. Was like that freeform approach to how you built characters, where it gave you so much space to like build different stuff that you could never have built before, especially if you came from like traditional, say, D&D, where playing a paladin could often be incredibly restrictive. Where in Pillars of Eternity, suddenly you could play like a paladin with a flintlock pistol as a main weapon, or the like, or you weren't necessarily tied to a particular stat like strength or constitution or charisma. You could, as a paladin, go for like intelligence and make it work in Pillars. Like the fact that it gave you that space to build a character, or like to execute on a character concept, was one of the things I loved most about that game. And whether there's going to be that space in Avowed is something I'm very curious about.
And I will tell you, between me and you, because nobody's watching, just between me, you, and Johnny, I hate that with a passion. It's actually one of the reasons why I didn't gravitate towards the newer Dungeon and Dragon style games, where everybody can be everything all at once and you can just grab any stat. I did like the idea of particular restrictions. But that being said, if they explain why, in good fictional terms, an intelligence paladin or a dexterity cleric works, if they explain it really well, I'll buy in. But what I have found is that those games usually offer a genericness, which unfortunately might go with Avowed's generic look, which could really cause me to not find something to latch onto, because I have yet to latch onto anything in that game. And I want to play it.
I understand where you're coming from.
I want to play it big time. What do you like about that land? Like, is there, because I hear people who like this location or this kind of thing in Pillars of Eternity and this one. What is it about this land that you like? Because to me, it's always felt like a mishmash, which then feels more generic than, let's say, a very specific. Is there something about these lands that you've liked, or anything that really gravitates?
Mainly, it was like the fusion of somewhat traditional fantasy, so something like, say, the Forgotten Realms.
Okay.
And like gunpowder and like 16th century sort of technology.
Okay.
As well, sort of incorporated into that setting as well.
Yeah.
And then given some twists here and there. That was something I found really interesting.
I love the idea of getting a flintlock, if I like the shooting, but getting a flintlock and then somehow magicking some bullets up that do a certain
Right.
thing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like instead of going with a magic user as an ice spell,
Or like
it's
one-handing the flintlock,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then with the other hand shooting
Yeah.
fireballs. Or
yeah, that kind
is
of
cool.
stuff. Freeze a guy so you can shoot him easier. That kind of stuff. I'm all for. I'm all for.
Then
you know?
explode him with
Yeah.
True.
And I will say, you know, the ability to be all things isn't so bad if all things can be comboed together. If they're separate, fire, you know, if they feel like they're separate things, but you can do them all, it'll be less interesting. But if you're able to even yourself, not even the game has to do this, but if you just slightly can figure out a couple little tricks that you're like, I did this, and maybe Joe Blow next to me wouldn't do this, then that'll be enough to usually get me to buy into it. But
even small things like maybe the flintlock staggers an enemy for a bit, which allows you to like stab them.
Yeah.
Or do a bigger channel magic or something.
Something that takes a second longer, but they're stunned, so now you can do it.
And the fact that you're doing the flintlock enables you to do something
right
in a way.
Something else.
Just as an example there.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those games that has a lot of undefined elements that I need to see more. Moving on from there, Avowed. Like I said, I like the changes. I like the huge focus on magic that we saw, and I like that it's super vibrant. I'll finish that with Avowed. I actually think those are the things that attract me, even though they can lean on a genericness. Rebellion did Atomfall. I don't know. So I'm a big Sniper Elite fan. Also, Army of the Dead, I believe, is that the name of those games? Or Zombie Army, I think is what they're called. The shooters that are built like sort of like Sniper Elite, but with zombies.
Yeah, but yeah.
I'm all for this. Like robots and zombies mixed together. I mean, I saw it and I was all. I think that they've nailed. I think for the most part, at least, I've liked their shooting always. I've liked their combat. Their worlds have been always fun to explore, even if it's a sniper game where you're just exploring some bunker. I think that they do combat really well, and that this looks cool. I did see arrows and shit, so I'm gonna have to see how well that works. Arrows, and he's got an RPG. No, that's a flashlight. I thought it was an RPG he was just holding in his hand. But it's like a mix of multiple things. Magic, zombies, robots. Almost Doctor Who-ish kind of thing. But
it reminded me of Atomic Hearts too.
Oh, did it? In like the mixture of magic
with the
or sci and robots. I gotcha. Yeah. That's coming out in 2025 as well, man. Made by Sniper and Army devs. Looks to be a great mix of zombies and robots is what I wrote. Anything else for that game before we pause and go on to AC Shadows?
No, I think that looked really good. And I noted down that it's like a British Fallout. In hindsight, I don't know if it had that much Fallout. But it did seem British, right? Am I right? Remember?
Well, you might have seen the TARDIS and stuff. It looked like the phone booth looked like the TARDIS from Doctor Who. So you might have put two and two together and been like,
that's
this is
a
like
little
Doctor
bit.
Who.
Yeah.
So AC Shadows. So I don't think I've talked to Silver about Shadows since this, but I know that Johnny and I have discussed it in a chat. So while this is running in the background, what did you think? Anything interest you, disinterest you in AC Shadows? Anything stun you?
It was a bit of a mixed bag. There was some of the stealth stuff I really liked, like the ability to hide up in the ceiling. I think that provides a lot of potential for like ghost playthroughs. Hopefully, that will actually be supported. It's been a while since that playstyle was kind of been supported in Assassin's Creed. Like all the way back in Syndicate, you could do that sometimes. But that was the last game I kind of remember that being a thing. So I would hope for that as well. And I mean, speaking of Syndicate, also obviously highly reminiscent of the Fry Twins dynamic with the loud, brash, brawling character and the subtle stealth character, and again, sort of a male-female dynamic there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the combat I found less engaging. That looks very familiar. And at this point, I've played and seen so many samurai
games?
games.
Oh, samurai games. Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't particularly engage my interest, and even more so given the setting of this game, which is again in like late Sengoku Jidai period, which is where it feels like 80% of these samurai games are set.
Occur, and that's for sure true.
That where like, could we maybe go back like 100 years or 200 years? Like there are other conflicts, or like it doesn't necessarily have to be the start of the Edo period. Like it's yeah, and Oda Nobunaga and all these familiar characters, like it's like Chinese history in Three Kingdoms, where it feels like this is always the well we go back to over and over and over because it's familiar. It's what people expect. It's what people think they want, or what analysts and stuff, I guess, think people want. So it just feels very, very familiar.
All right, what about you, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think that on one hand, I'm very excited because the setting looks amazing, looks jaw-dropping, as someone was saying. I love the idea of jumping off a pagoda into a leap of faith, and sneaking around as a ninja. Super cool. The fighting as the samurai, I kind of dig it. But it reminds me so much of Valhalla, where I didn't feel like an assassin at all. I was just a warrior, which is okay, but I had a hard time associating with the assassin order, because I just didn't feel like an assassin. So I don't know if maybe the focus is going to be mostly on the lady for the assassin stuff, or how they're going to juggle. Maybe you can still sneak around as the samurai. It's going to be a bit clumsy, right? To sneak around with the big armor. So that's the one thing I'm seeing a dissonance there. But outside of that, yeah, I think I'm all for it.
Yeah, actually, it's a good point that you mentioned, because I think people see that one's a samurai, one's a ninja. Of course, just the assassin stuff will be her. Well, that's not actually true. People are trying to figure out, are they both, like what exactly is going on? Are they divergent and one starts to go the Templar route or something? Because these games are more thematically assassins versus Templars than they are actually assassins versus, as we've seen, like as they move forward. I will say, I am just like you. On one hand, I'm super excited because everything they've been saying about what they want to do fits exactly what I want to see and changes I want to do. But it is 100% still on the same engine.
Right.
And there are certain things that engine feels like and does that we will have to see if it works. I will say, I thought the combat in the Ubisoft trailer that they showed, the big Ubisoft breakdown, I thought the combat with him looked awesome for a couple reasons. One, much heavier strikes than somebody. I'm personally currently playing Valhalla, played it last night. And I can tell you, in Valhalla, the power attacks feel like Vikings. I'm okay with those. You're hooking, but any other normal attack, it feels like nothing. It feels like a dude who's actually hitting somebody with a wicker stick. It doesn't even feel like a weapon sometimes, the way you're hitting people in the generic non-powered attacks of Valhalla.
Yeah.
This, at least, I can say, when he is swinging his sword, it's not even like a samurai that you would see in other games where they have a ton of cool moves. His is like, he has a staff, or he has a club, hits a guy, grabs a samurai sword, pretty much hits a guy with a sharpened club. That is how he swings a sword. And I like that. I'm much more into the more brutal, he's a big dude beating the shit up with a sword that just happens to be sharpened enough to cut you. But if he hit you with a wicker stick, it'd still hurt or probably kill you. I like that.
Yeah,
I think that's...
The impact looked
good. Weapon or armor falling off, all that looked great. But I got to tell you, man, when I saw some of the combat in the Ubisoft presentation, there were the misses and the animation gaps that we see in every Assassin's Creed that people need to be ready for, because it is a generic engine made for certain timelines and fight styles, instead of a game like Ghost of Tsushima where the entire plan was at first samurai. So there's a part in the Ubisoft stuff where he swings and you actually see the enemy go into an age-old animation from Origins. And they go like, and then pop out of it to do a parry. And I'm like, oh, that was instantly noticeable to anybody who's played all the way back to Origins. So that kind of stuff, it pops up and it happens. But the world itself looks cool. The idea of light and dark is cool, depending on if it's binary. I did notice some... So I love light and dark, and I love vision cones being affected. But I saw some times where it looked like you were in stealth, but the guy was right there, and it was supposedly dark, and they couldn't see you. I would love to see a merging of the two, where the vision cone goes up and down with the darkness versus just can't see you, even though you're 1 foot away, and there's light behind you. We just have to see how that all works, and I'm okay with not knowing. But what I saw was a landscape that looked very fun. It looked already like it would be a joy to traverse and move around. I love the idea that the samurai in the big armor isn't going to be climbing everything. That's the way it is. Jacob and Evie, guys, Jacob and Evie, for all intents and purposes, are just J-Evie through the game. They're the same fucking character. They do the same shit. There's no specialness. I love that game. But even I can look at him and go, J-Evie is crawling. J-Evie is stabbing somebody. J-Evie, it doesn't matter. This one looks like it might matter. And to me, that's probably going to be the coolest part, even though you are going to hear the complaint. It will happen. Where somebody's going to be like, I want
this character.
I want to do everything because we are in the current, I don't want choices affect me. I want every choice available to me. I want blah, blah, blah. This game is going the opposite route. For better or worse, I like that. I like it. We talked about this with the Magic. I like restrictions sometimes. And so I'm
a
cool.
Different lens through which to experience the game. With him, maybe it's more combat centric.
And I don't know if you guys saw this. I will point this out. They've got a unique way of offering the player the emphasis on switching characters. So what they've chosen to do is when you're grabbing loot, you are consistently grabbing loot out of boxes and stuff that isn't just for you. It can be possibly for the other character. Their hope is that as you continue to gather stuff, you'll see something cool that will make you want to choose the other character to play. And it sounds like they might be massaging that a bit, so that there are times where you'll grab your chest plate for your character a couple times, you'll see a sword, but then you might find a chest that has some really cool blades in it that has a bonus to it that makes you go, oh, damn, this, I can't use this on my guy because my guy doesn't, throw knives all the time, but she does. So I'm going to switch to that character. They said it was going to be somewhat soft. They're not forcing you. They're just trying to give you the desire of go. And we've seen this before in a lot of games. You grab a battle axe and you're a ranger. You're like, well, I can't use that. So I'm all for that. I mean, what I've saw looks like an Assassin's Creed game based in Japan, right? I mean, right now that's what we're getting, and I think I'm pretty cool with it. I think we can just work around it. I think what's going to matter to me is the story, the lens of all the characters that you explore and talk to. Did you guys notice he talks a lot to himself, though? Did you guys notice that? Oh, maybe that's more in the Ubisoft presentation. So I don't know if you guys noticed this, but in the Ubisoft presentation, he talks to himself a lot. And I was all...
Like Aloy?
Aloy. But Aloy's close. Yeah. Not nearly that much, but I was just like, is it gonna, like, it's not that we didn't see that in other games. Valhalla, he'll, his gruff voice, and he'll be like, those guys are over there. But I felt like there was some internal thought process going on that you were hearing about more than maybe being told within the story beats themselves. So that'll be interesting to see if that's just that. It could just be that one scene they showed. They might just wanted to make sure it hit. And other than that, my biggest complaint, guys, and this is Ubisoft's engine, and it's Ubisoft's design decision. And so far, every video I've seen has this. There is a major lack of multiple enemies figuring out a way to attack you at the same time. And that is something that was in all of the videos and even prominently displayed in the Ubisoft one. And from what I hear of people who played it, prominently displayed no matter the difficulty when you played it for the preview. There were people saying that the enemies, there's got to be a way, man. Like, imagine this. Imagine you're a samurai, right? And somebody attacks you from the back. People will say, well, hit Y to win. That's fine. But maybe what if you hit Y and use your other sword or whatever to knock that sword away? What if you can't kill him with it? But what if you can, like, you're a big dude. What if you can go boom and slap him with a, massive arm, knock him back a little bit so you can continue the attack over here? There's just little things I would like to see that makes it feel like every guy isn't choosing to kill themselves slowly on your blade. Like, that's what happens in all these games where the guy's like, I will
taking
wait.
turns.
I will wait
Just
to
like-
die. Yeah.
Hold on,
Yeah.
hold on,
Unity
Jimmy.
is pretty much
Hold
the
on.
only exception.
Unity, and there were times, not everybody's favorite game, there were occasional times in Syndicate because of the gang mentality that occurred, the gangs on the street, where I did notice that you would get like 2 and you would have to slick out of the way. And maybe that's presented here when maybe there's more AI to turn on. We are a ways out. Might have wanted to make it easy on people too, and so there's that.
That's another.
It's for sure a thing. I saw it with Valhalla. Not the lack of enemies attacking, but certain degrees of hitting and difficulty that I was like, this is off, and I realized it was for the presentation and for the player who is playing this snippet to sort of see and get. But yeah, so I mean, all good thoughts. I think everything you guys said was fair, and it's funny because despite my issues, I still look at it and go, man, that could be, it could be awesome. Like, it could be awesome, or it could be.
It could.
Yeah, it could.
It could be. See, I don't even know of a bad Assassin's Creed. So I said it could be
That's
awesome.
what I was
or
gonna
it could
say. I
be-
like Assassin's Creed, man.
Yeah, and I mean
Like-
truly bad. Unity is good, but it has bugs. I mean, if there was a true Unity had a lot, but ignore Unity for a second. That's such an outlier. But if you look at all their games, is there a bad, truly bad Assassin's Creed? Like, truly bad, not it's trash. This is the internet forums, but I don't believe there is. Like, just truly bad. I was trying to say, like, it could be this game and just come up with one of the best ones and then say, or it could be this, but I don't have a this.
No, I think that also is one of the frustrating things, I think, for a lot of people, the fact that there aren't, because that also means that it becomes easier, I guess, to maybe see wasted potential or unfulfilled potential. And that becomes, for some weird reason, that kind of becomes less forgivable than if it was just terrible. Because if it was just terrible, oh, it's terrible and we'll just move on. But when you see the glimpses there that don't necessarily connect together to form the greater whole, but they're there, and they form enough of an experience to be solid or average or however you want to, comfortable or whatever. That I think that's the frustration that a lot of people feel with Ubisoft games, where it's not the problem isn't that they're terrible, it's that they're average enough that they sort of produce that frustration, if that makes sense.
I guess I
it
enjoyed
does make sense.
most of
It does
them.
make sense. So go ahead, John,
And
by all means.
for me, sometimes it's good enough that when you buy something, it's what's in the tin.
Yeah,
like what's
absolutely.
in the can is what's in
yes.
on the tin, and what you get is an Assassin's Creed game, derivative and familiar, but it will do some stuff in a unique way, perhaps, and a new setting. All of that to me actually is a pretty solid baseline already for an AC game. I don't need it to do extra in a way.
Yeah, but I think that point sort of raises another question, which is, what is an AC game? Because the answer to that is going to be different.
It's changed. Yeah, no, that's true. But what I would say, I've liked the core of all AC games, I think. Either the older style or even the newer one, or more like RPG focused. So I guess the answer for me is I'm okay with both.
I think, though, if I was like looking at a rating system of like student grades, there have definitely been A Assassin's Creed games, A's. There's also been at the worst D- or
some
D
Bs.
for technical issues with Unity. But then if you look at the parkour in Unity, you could say it's an A, where the world in Origins to me is phenomenal. I really liked it, so that might be a B plus or an A. But then you look at Odyssey, and I'm all, oh, you know what? Odyssey didn't have shields for the most part, but it had like combat that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the exploration. I enjoyed the characterizations, the goofiness in Odyssey. So that might be an A. They're sort of all over the place, but they're never really low. There's a couple that are really high, but they're never. I was just trying to think, because I played Liberation even. Their DLCs, there's been some misses on their DLCs, but even Liberation, which originally was a port from, I believe, a PSP game, I ended up liking because the general base of the game is still enjoyable. What happens is you get the layering of world porn on it. And if that world porn speaks to you, as long as you don't dive in too much and say, I really want this guy to make sure he's eating at the exact time of these characters, or what have you, when you go too far, it can get worse. Even Mirage, which tried to go back, but was still the same engine, I actually liked Mirage a lot. It was just a different style. It was sort of a mixing of the two. But yeah, it's a fascinating game series when you look at it from just evolution, changes, and what it's offered. But looking here at some of the battle and stuff, him picking people up with his sword, I got to tell you guys, I wish Valhalla had felt that way, other than the power moves. Because Valhalla, you got this massive dude who is known for TV shows, being in the TV show about Vikings, this huge hitter, and you turn around and you're like, why does he feel like he's hitting somebody with, a willow branch? Moving on from there, the next one that's going to come up is S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2.
Especially on the higher difficulties.
Yeah. We won't even go there.
A lot of them, yeah.
S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, really good. Like, the showing for S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 was awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't even have
and that's another one that's pretty much like
what you see is what you get.
In a way, like in a way, that's what I expected. A very good looking version of S.T.A.L.K.E.R.
Oh, dude.
With the anomalies and everything. I mean,
graphically,
it's all there, right?
Lighting, design, guns,
atmosphere,
world, everything. Sounded pretty good. It's always hard to tell because it's a stream, which is even usually lower bit rate than what you would capture even on a YouTube video, which is even lower than what you'd hear in real life. But dude, it looked just like what I was hoping S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 would look like by the time it was done. Everything sort of hit exactly what I expected. And it's a unique world, like you had stated with Atomic Heart. You get those worlds that they're presenting a different location, which then is fascinating because the accustomed can be slightly strange. Where things that we're accustomed to seeing in Fallout, that's not what they're going to look like in S.T.A.L.K.E.R. And the stuff I saw, some of the special effects on there, really looked good in that muted way. They did such a great job with the lighting. They even made it so that like dawn and dusk look good. Something dusk in particular, in a lot of games we've seen, they have flat light. Their lighting is just spot on. I'm watching some of the gameplay. I would say recoil's a little light on some of the guns, but we'll have to see how that is. It could just be the guns that they're firing here. Ooh, that is really light, but still.
Yeah, we didn't see a ton. I liked some of the animations. Like there were some really cool, unique reload animations. The unnecessary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? The ones where like they flip the weapon and everything, totally unnecessary, but I dig it.
Yeah, I'm just watching some of these fight scenes and where they are. Little break away from the gameplay here for the third-person fight scene where he smashes the guy's head against the truck. Looks really good. Got a lot of atmospherics where it looks like you'll be able to listen to the radio and stuff. I like that weird diegetic shit where you'll go in and there'll be like a radio play. I mean, I'm a sucker for radios even in Fallout 4 where I'll turn on the little Pip-Boy radio while I'm running around listening to a fucking audiobook like a nerd. I love that shit. And so this kind of stuff.
I think that's kind of missing from Starfield, don't you feel like?
Absolutely. Yeah, do you know what there is? There is a mod and a website. Both of them channel in radio stations. The mod adds a player onto a desk in the game, and you can push a button and it'll play. I absolutely agree. It is a huge immersion add, Silver. Do you know what else is missing from that game? Mini games. This is going to sound really dumb, but even a fucking card game. Even a card game. The Pazak from
Sit down and play a card game with Sarah or like...
It can be checkers. And then moving on from there, Gears of War, E-Day. So what I've been hearing about this, which is super exciting to me. I don't know if you guys have, I don't know if we've talked about this. Maybe Johnny and I did, but I've been hearing one of the reasons for the prequel as well is not only that they just wanted to do one, but that with the new technology, because remember they're switching to Unreal, they've got all their engines on Unreal, is to show what they believe as E-Day, the big attack, all the enemies.
Where the locusts emerge.
Finally show it at the scale they want to show it. And when that trailer pans out and you see the city going wrong, it's, what did we talk about where I said I don't want one magic user. I also don't want 5 locusts. I want all the locusts. I want it to be war. And so personally, when I saw this trailer, I was like, oh yeah.
And locusts breathe the lambent, of course.
Yeah. Dude, and he was getting his ass kicked, man. Like I was sitting there going, oh, what are they gonna, and then I thought he died, and I was like, but he looked weird. So I was trying to figure out what timeline it was or what was going on. But everything about Gears just looked, I mean, exactly what I was hoping for from thematically. Of course, we don't know, gameplay wise, but I would assume if you take Gears, what are we at? 5? Is that the last one? Yeah.
Yeah.
If we Gears 5, technically that thing ran like butter. So my hope is this will. I think Gears 5, even if you don't like the gameplay of Gears 5, it was 4K 60, I think, on the Series X. But I think that's sort of what I'm looking for. I just can't wait, man. And they also said it's not open world. It will be like missions. They also said a return to horror. And I don't know if you guys even remember this. I'm sure Silver does, but I don't know if Johnny had a lot of experiences with Gears of War 1. But Gears of War 1 nailed horror a couple times in some really subtle. It wasn't like, oh, hey, here's a super horror part. It was just these things that would pop up, rainy events or, things moving in the forest where I was like, fuck.
There was one of the levels in particular that had a very long sort of lead-in that was entirely quiet, basically.
Yep.
With no action.
Dude, I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
And also like the night of bats or whatever.
That's the one I'm talking about. That was, to me, dude.
Yeah. Very pitch black like, yeah.
I love that, man. I'm so excited for this. I mean, did they announce a time? Did they say 2000? Because I had heard it was 2025, but I feel like...
No, they didn't say anything.
Well, let's say 2025 is open for them.
Yep.
It's going to be a busy year because you probably have GTA, possibly have GTA in that time space. But it looks awesome, man. Just look. Do
you think it's the right move, or I guess what you wanted to do, like a prequel instead of Gears 6, for example?
Yeah, I do, because Gears 5, no issues whatsoever with the ending of Gears 5. There was a choice to make and all that. But I think with a prequel, it may cause people to be interested in 2, 3, and there's always been a rumor of a remake collection.
Oh, yeah, because I think they're not available on PC, right?
I don't know. Oh,
the first one is.
The first one is, but is it like 2 or I can't remember. But there was definitely some.
The first one
where can you
had
get
a
it?
direct
questions.
PC port back in the day, and that PC port actually got a couple of extra levels that weren't on the console version.
Gotcha. So here's what I could
made a remake.
Then
PC, that was also
So what I could see them doing is the prequel, and then behind the scenes making 1, 2, and 3 trilogy. And so you get the prequel in 2025, and then what if 6 months later, it's like here's 1, 2, and 3 remade, and so you can jump into both. I think that sells quite well, especially if they're good. But yeah, from what I saw, that it looked awesome to me. I didn't really have any complaints whatsoever with what I saw for Gears so far. Let's see, the swarms where you had to stay in the night. Dylan said, stay in the dark. Yeah, definitely. The Gears tactic game is the only one I've ever played. Sneaky, awesome tactics game. Yeah, Gears Tactics was awesome. I don't know if we'll ever get another one. Feel like that's not happening for some reason, but I don't quite know why.
Yeah.
What did everybody else think about the show? I didn't realize we're at 3 hours, 10 minutes already. So what we'll do is, I guess we'll do the next show on the next Friday, because that was a lot.
Yeah.
That was a long show, though. I thought we would be done before. when I said, you know, we'll just wrap it up. When we started prior to the podcast, I was like, oh yeah, we'll just get through this. There was a lot of games, man. There was a lot of games.
A lot of good stuff.
Great show.
Very cool.
And somebody said this show leaves the ball in Sony's court. Listen, yeah, true, maybe, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that. I think that, especially with Microsoft going in multiple places, we'll see what the Nintendo Switch has. I think it does, but I also think that Sony isn't, like, a good show from Xbox doesn't mean the same thing. A good show from any of these guys, I felt, hasn't meant as much as people think it does, because some are multi.
That's completely true.
Yeah, and it's like, not only that, Silver, I've seen this before. Somebody says, oh, this third-person action game, this is solidifying everything for this company. And you're like, I know a lot of people who don't like third-person action games, who are huge gamers who spend thousands of dollars, but they're doing racing, sim, and first-person shooters. So just because something hits big doesn't mean people will want to play a Gears. I like Gears, but it doesn't mean other people will. Danny Passion, $5 super chat. I want them to make a new trilogy starting from E-Day. The OG trilogy took place 3 years timeline, so they have 14. Yeah, they have 14 years from the starting of E-Day. That was brought up in our podcast, or in our Discord actually as well, that they are leaving 14 years between the prequel and the starting of number 1. So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, they could.
Yeah, so they have Marcus's father will still be alive and stuff like that.
I think the only question is, Silver, that could possibly come up is that there's a slight lack of enchantment to me when I know the character can't die because of the games. It's a prequel. So if I had 2 other prequels, there's a lot of characters you would just know and go, that guy can't die because he's in the later ones. They could also just say this is a retelling. I mean, I think that would piss a lot of people off. But Ryan Martin, $5 super chat. Thank you very much. Everybody, as we wrap this up, I want to say, please, if you get a chance, I would love for you to go in and give this a thumbs up and review us on Patreon or review us on Spotify and on iTunes. SBZ, $10 super chat. Fun fact, SV6 trailer announcing Terry and Maya from King of Fighters was a historic event in the fighting game community. It's the first time ever that Street Fighter will have guest fighters from a different FG franchise.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
Crossover.
I saw a lot of people really excited about that. It's cool to see fighters doing overlaps too. I don't know about you guys, but I love the idea of throwing one fighter, as long as they have, the fighting powers seem to be somewhat the same.
Kind of like seeing Bugs Bunny and Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, dude, I'm fine with that. I love that shit. They probably won't be in the arcade winning some major tournament or the story mode, but I'm fine if you want to do, your side characters, especially when we see a lot of my fighting games dying. I mean, the Soul Calibur director left, so the chance of another Soul Calibur seems low, and I would love to have seen that. Virtual Fighter's been on hiatus. They said they were making a new one. Yeah, my belief is not quite high. But that'll be it for us. Johnny, what are you streaming this Saturday?
So Saturday, I'm streaming some League of Legends, and I'm doing an Elden Ring playthrough now. If people want to come check out, I'm trying to create an identity for my character, looking for stuff, looking to
gotcha.
What's cool, and just trying a bunch of stuff out. So yeah,
that's awesome. That'll be it for us, everybody. Appreciate it. Like I said, review this, Spotify, iTunes, give it a thumbs up when this video goes live. I hope you guys all have a good week, got some information from this, and thanks for people informing us about the Avowed trailer. I will continue to watch it. If you get a chance, check out the Discord. Peace out, everybody. We will be back next Friday, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care.